and weather station.
9 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Andy Farnsworth. KSL's top story this hour. A man is dead after getting caught in a rock slide in Little Cottonwood Canyon. Salt Lake County rescue crews say it happened in Bells Canyon. The man reportedly fell 700 feet. No one else was injured. A Salt Lake County man was found dead after he went missing in the Yuba State Reservoir Saturday. KSL News Radio's Brianna Willis reports.
The man had been swimming at the North Beach when he went missing around 4:30 in the afternoon. Several departments responded to search the waters, including Juab and Utah County Sheriff's Office and the Utah Department of Public Safety. His body was found about 4 hours later.
The case is still being investigated, and we're not sure at this point if he was wearing a life jacket. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. It was a close call between a Delta Airlines SkyWest regional jet and a B-52 bomber in North Dakota. The jet was about to land when the pilot said he had to take quick action to avoid the other plane. More from ABC's Gio Benitez.
A Delta regional jet on approach to Minot, North Dakota on Friday, forced to make an aggressive maneuver to avoid a mid-air collision with a B-52 bomber, according to the pilot. It's unclear how close the two planes came to each other.
The Air Force confirms that a B-52 was flying over the North Dakota State Fair. Your money at this moment, all your indexes are up. The Dow up 178 points right now to 44,520. Coming up, we still got delays on I-15 coming out of Ogden. Traffic and weather together is next. KSL News Time, 9:01.
Mornings are for recharging.
And they're for starting your day right.
We volunteer to join you in the car. Get news and weather at 102.7 FM during the most important part of your day.
Andy and Amanda, each morning between 5 and 9 on KSL News Radio.
Hi, I'm Dr. Matthew Wappett, Executive Director of the Institute for Disability Research Policy and Practice, or the IDRPP, at Utah State University. Did you know that 1 in 4 Utahns have a disability? Think about that. Your neighbor, your colleagues, your family. At some point, disability affects everyone. The USU IDRPP is on the front lines, driving change right here in Utah and across the nation for people with disabilities. For over 50 years, IDRPP has been Utah's University Center for Excellence in Developmental Disabilities, generating vital research that shapes effective policies and delivers real-world solutions. From groundbreaking research to evidence-based training, the IDRPP empowers individuals with disabilities, their families, and the professionals who support them. We're making our communities more accessible and welcoming for everyone. Find out more at idrpp.usu.edu.
I'm back to doing what I love and more, thanks to the Good Feet store.
Are you struggling with pain in your feet, ankles, knees, hips, or lower back? At the Good Feet store, we recommend having high-quality support in all of your shoes. Our personalized arch support system has helped countless people find relief, like Karen. Here is her Good Feet story.
After I decided my pain was too much, and my doctor actually suggested that I do visit the Good Feet store. Pretty amazing when they put the arch supports in your shoe and you walk around and you realize there's not pain and you think, how can this arch support in my shoe make my back pain go away? But it works. And how can it make my knee pain go away? It was incredible.
Come to the Good Feet store today and see what we can do for you. Good Feet arch supports are in stock and available in over 300 different styles and sizes.
Thanks to the Good Feet store.
Stop in today at the Good Feet store.
Texting privacy policy and terms and conditions posted at textingterms.us. Texting enrolls you for recurring automated text marketing messages. Message and data rates may apply. Reply STOP to opt out.
There's a lot on the line in divorce. This is Joe Cordell of Cordell & Cordell, the largest family law firm in the country. When you find yourself facing divorce, you need a partner you can count on.
Connect with a local divorce attorney today. Text Office 44 to 32 32 32. Office 44 to 32 32 32. CordellCordell.com.
This Friday, join KSL News Radio and NPS from 10 to 1 as the movie show stops by. Then, browse and uncover what makes NPS so great. With 4 locations, NPS takes a new inventory every day. Then, they check all competitors' retail pricing before marking items down 20 to 70% off. You're invited to visit the movie show this Friday from 10 to 1. And that's the first step to discovering NPS. Visit NPSstore.com to begin your own NPS adventure. NPSstore.com.
Emergency traffic brought to you by Mountain America's Double Rewards credit card promotion. Let's check in with Heather Kelly.
We still have the delays southbound I-15 leaving Ogden heading toward Riverdale and Roy, but the crash that started it all at Riverdale has cleared. All the lanes are now open, so traffic will start improving there. However, if you're coming into downtown Salt Lake City from Davis County, we have another crash right near the top of the on-ramp from 500 south. It's blocking 2 right lanes of the freeway, southbound 15. Everyone's having to move to the left, and that has traffic backed up to 6 north, and that is barely moving. So that's going to be our new area of emergency traffic. Everybody else, though, moving fairly well, just some typical congestion spots. Building your dream home, Campson Electric specializes in custom homes with precision, quality, and clean design. From conception to completion, we power it all. Visit CampsonElectric.com to bring your vision to light. Heather Kelly in the KSL Traffic Center.
KSL weather today, partly cloudy with a small chance of thunderstorms. Tomorrow will be sunnier with some light winds. Right now it is fair and 85 degrees at 9 o'clock in the morning in Salt Lake City. I'm Andy Farnsworth from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at KSLNewsRadio.com. We are Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
Good morning and welcome to another edition of Inside Sources. It's Monday morning. How was your weekend, Holly?
It was really good. Thank you so much.
Yes. Well, let's start right in it because we've had a lot to cover this morning as we prepared for the show, not the least of which is the ongoing fire in Sevier County. The Monroe fire, which has now burned over 9,500 acres, is still burning. When we got here this morning, it was 0% contained. It's now apparently 3% contained, so baby steps. It might be a season-ending event that puts it to rest in October or November.
The best analogy to give you right now is instead of having one big fire, we have 50 small fires that we know about and 50 small fires we don't know about.
We're going to have to stay ready until it decides to come out on its own. So is that 2 weeks? Is it a month? We don't know. With the current weather, I don't know that we think it's going to sit in there a whole long time, but that's a tough question. It might be a season-ending event that puts it out in September, October.
And that's what's crazy to me. So season-ending event sounds to me like you get into the fall rains or even into some snow before they're thinking this fire could be out.
Right. It's 9,500 acres, and like he said, there are various fires all over throughout this. It's apparently very steep terrain. They're calling it heavy fuel. I guess it's just the thicket that's just incredibly hard to fight. And the terrain is such that you can't just get people in there. It's expanded to the point where there are now, I think, 3 buildings that have been destroyed. There have been some evacuations. By the way, the Monroe Canyon is south of Richfield. It's kind of if you created a triangle between Monroe, Cusharam, and Richfield, it would be right in the middle of there.
I only know where Richfield is.
Big, beautiful area. Well, we got a place not far from there, so I know that area very well. It's beautiful. But it's become a big fire. There's been some account that it's the number 1 fire in the United States. I don't know if that's by volume or by problematic or where it's going. But yeah, it hit when we started today. It was 9,400 acres. Now it's 9,500. It changes by the minute. The community officials in Sevier County have said that they are going to have a debriefing on this tonight. So we might visit again tomorrow. But this fire, Holly, has been growing. I think we've been talking about it for over a week now. Yeah. And I think when it started, people thought it was the result of a four-wheeler or a side-by-side. And they were looking for the side-by-side operator. They even had a description of it with a broken windshield and this and that. I don't know that they've ever found anyone or found anything that may have been involved in this. But as they're fighting the fire, they're also doing an investigation to see what, if anything, they can find out about how it was caused, to maybe get in touch with the person and say, hey, wait a minute, what you did was really problematic.
Yeah, and I don't know if you know this, the answer to this question, but if they have 50 known small fires and 50 unknown small fires, it sounds to me like, has this fire jumped, or like, do you have any idea why they're talking about all these small ones?
That's exactly what they're saying. So you can, if you think about this area, we have thickets here and there. One might be burning, and then a half a mile away, there's another one, or a quarter mile, or 100 yards away.
Yeah.
And so you can have areas in between that are not burning. So literally you have 50 different fires that they're fighting, which is almost impossible. 50 more that they haven't even found yet that they're looking for, because the combination of the really, really hot weather, really, really dry weather, and windy conditions have caused this fire to just jump from one patch of thick brush to another. And it's the fuel that's burning down there that's really problematic. I mean, this was just a tinderbox waiting to go, and it just doesn't seem to be going out. But it's sad to hear them say a season-ending event.
Right,
October,
that it could burn until we start to get snow or something.
And there's nothing on the horizon. I mean, I don't know that there's anything. We've got a weekend coming up, which is
hot, dry, and
one
windy.
of the hottest weekends of the year historically.
Yeah.
No rain in the forecast. And like I say, 200 people down there fighting that. But I think what they're doing is just trying to contain it as much as possible.
Yeah.
Because it's not contained.
One of the things that struck me is we've talked about this story for the people who have cabins in that area. They basically are telling them, don't call us, we'll call you. If you haven't heard from us, your cabin has not burned. We will call you if it does.
Yeah, and it's a problem because we've got a place in Torrey not too far away, but you think to yourself, if that area was burning and I was down there, what would I do? And of course, the right answer is you would evacuate.
Right.
But a lot of people are like, no, I mean, this is my property. This is my house. I've got the hose.
Right.
I've got the sprinklers out. I can build a little fire break and get the shovel and the hose out, which of course is nuts. But we all think that. I mean, I would be
sometimes it works.
Inclined to think that myself, that maybe you could do something to fight it yourself, but it doesn't do any good. And once you're in there and you're trapped, then you're really trapped. It's just like the people that are involved in the Texas floods.
Right.
At some point you think, well, we can ride this out. We're in this building. It's very safe.
We've seen this
ground.
before.
It's
This is not the first
before.
time.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah. And then there's always this, having done fires and arson cases when I was a prosecutor, people often think, I can save something. So let me start gathering the most valuable things in this place so that when the time comes, I can get those.
Right.
And then waiting for the last minute. And then, I forgot
And then the road is closed because of flames or something.
my antiques. Yeah, things like that.
Right.
It's nuts.
Yeah, we've been talking about the Monroe fire and that it could burn until September or October until a season-ending event puts it out. But there's also updates on the Forsyth fire. Do you want to give us some of those updates?
Yeah, so apparently monsoonal storms returned to the state over the past few days, producing some isolated showers that have parked over some of the firefighting operations. 0.72 inches of rain, that's a significant amount.
It
Three-quarters
is,
of an inch fell over the Forsyth fire in northern Washington County. That would be north of St. George and south of Cedar City, from what I recall. 0.2 inches of rain fell on the Monroe fire, which we just talked about, Monroe Mountain. 1/4 of an inch fell on the Fish Lake and Cove Fort areas, all close to the Monroe Canyon fire. So there have been some thunderstorms. The Forsyth fire growth, they said, was minimal on Thursday because of the thunderstorm. Federal firefighters added in an update of the fire. It's now 84% contained after it's burned so far over 15,000 acres, coming up on 16,000 acres. So that's
right.
got to be the biggest one that we did.
Well, Deer Creek fire is also almost that same. In fact, it's a little more. It's 15,800 acres and 11% contained in San Juan County.
That's down in San Juan County in the south east corner of the state, and it's also part of southwest Colorado. That's burned 15,800 acres. It's only 11% contained.
Right.
Yeah, and so this additional moisture is apparently short-lived. Hot and dry conditions are forecast to return to the state by early this week. Long-range models indicate monsoonal moisture could be spotty through the rest of July. So, I mean, it's
we didn't really see anything along the Wasatch Front. I mean, I got a few sprinkles at my house, but
let's think about
certainly not measurable.
What's 3 days away.
Right.
The 24th of July.
That's right. Fireworks.
And as we know, 2 days before then, which means tomorrow, it's legal to start lighting off fireworks. So you can bet there's going to be some problems. There are going to be some people doing some things that are a little bit goofy. And, be careful with fireworks. This is maybe the worst season we've seen in many, many years, maybe ever.
Remember, the governor last week said, please, please, please be careful with the fireworks. Do not light the state on fire.
Well, when we come back, the University of Utah could lose more than $100 million in medical research grants. It poses an existential threat to the university's research mission. We'll be back.
Behind the curtain of Utah and Washington politics.
It seems like the federal government is now saying to the states, you have much more control of your destiny.
And expanded inside sources.
And so our legislature is trying to figure out what their boundaries are.
Well, even like FEMA, right?
Yes.
Wildfire disasters.
The all-new Inside Sources.
If we have to pay for it all of ourselves, can we afford that as a state?
Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson, now on 9 to noon on KSL News Radio.
Emergency traffic brought to you by Mountain America. We've got a crash southbound I-15 in downtown Salt Lake City. It's right where the on-ramp from 500 South meets up with southbound 15, and it is blocking 2 right lanes of the freeway. Now, for about 10 minutes, they've been blocking a 3rd right lane, so that meant only 2 left lanes were available. Traffic is backed up to 1100 North, and people who were trying to merge on from 500 South, that on-ramp was completely blocked for about 15 minutes, so traffic on there is backed up, as well as anybody trying to transition from eastbound I-80 onto southbound I-15. But again, they've reopened one of the lanes, so hopefully traffic will start moving again. Wasatch Front businesses and property managers, GoPave Utah provides all asphalt repairs for your parking. For patching and paving along the Wasatch Front, contact GoPave Utah. GoPaveUtah.com. Heather Kelly in the KSL Traffic Center.
Be advised, this is your opportunity to save up to 40 to 80% on a hot tub or swim spa this weekend only, Friday through Sunday, Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Be advised, this is your opportunity to save up to 40 to 80% on a hot tub or swim spa this weekend only, Friday through Sunday, Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. 18-month interest-free financing. Our factories have demanded we sell 1,000 hot tubs and swim spas this weekend. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Huge factory incentives, factory rebates, this weekend only. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. We can remove your old hot tub. Free delivery of your new hot tub. Hot tub starting at $2,999. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Free delivery of your new hot tub. Just relax and enjoy. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Friday, 2 p.m. to 8 p.m. Saturday, 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. Sunday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Free admission, free parking, free delivery. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Call 833-SPA-SALE or visit hottubandSwimSpaSale.com.
Amanda, we love talking about Utah Community Credit Union, and guess what? They just got news that they saved their members over $40 million in 2024 alone.
And UCCU is opening 4 new branches in the Salt Lake Valley, which means 6 total now. They have 21st South, Taylorsville, Sandy, Magna, Harriman, and Draper.
And to celebrate these new branches, UCCU is offering some amazing opportunities. First of all, $150 cash just for setting up direct deposit with your UCCU account.
They'll give you up to $250 cash just for transferring any existing loan from another institution to UCCU.
And here's the big one, giving away 10 amazing prizes, including, get this, a brand new 2025 Jeep Wrangler.
So you heard that right. A brand new Jeep Wrangler could be yours, and no purchase is necessary. You don't even have to be a member.
Anyone can enter. It's easy. All you've got to do is go to uccu.com and sign up. So enter to win today.
UCCU.com. Find out more about Utah Community Credit Union, where you're going to love where you bank.
Everybody knows that exterior remodeling salespeople are all about the high-pressure sell. Am I right? Windows, siding, gutters, those suckers are going to twist your arm and get you to buy, or they won't leave your house at night. Tim Jr. here from RGS Exteriors, and I want you to know we don't have high-pressure sells. In fact, we don't even have salespeople. Nope, we have estimators. That's a huge difference. Estimators are trained to look at the entire scope of the project, to see and know if there are any problems, like rotten wood, wood-borne insects, or construction issues specific to your house or your neighbors. Salespeople are more concerned about playing those silly price games. Buy one, get one free, sign today and get 40% off, as if they didn't just jack the price up to give you a fake discount. RGS Exteriors estimators are going to give you a great quote. No games, no tricks, no nonsense. Call RGS Exteriors to quote your exterior project. Our number is 801-280-3110 or visit us at rgsutah.com. That's rgsutah.com.
Hear that? That's what having fewer hot flashes and night sweats can sound like. Veoza is the #1 prescribed hormone-free treatment FDA approved for moderate to severe vasomotor symptoms, also known as hot flashes and night sweats, due to menopause. Veoza can cause serious side effects, including liver problems. Your doctor will do blood tests before and during treatment. Stop Veoza and call your doctor if you have symptoms of liver problems, such as feeling more tired than usual, decreased appetite, nausea, vomiting, itching, yellowing of the eyes or skin, pale stool, dark urine, or stomach pain. Don't use Veoza if you have cirrhosis, severe kidney problems, kidney failure, or take CYP1A2 inhibitors. Ask your doctor about Veoza. To learn more, call 1-866-239-1637 or go to veoza.com. That's VEOZAH.com.
Inside Sources.
The Trump administration's proposal to significantly cut medical research funding at American colleges could cost the University of Utah $110 million annually, while severely impacting the school's ability to fulfill its research endeavors. This was an announcement that we're learning about just now, and it was part of an article written by Jay Swenson for the Deseret News over the weekend.
Yeah, it's specific to research, medical research that the university does, right? So it's not even talking about education for undergrads, specifically on research. And that's one of the missions of the University of Utah, is to do this research. And clawing back that much money makes a really big impact. In fact, some are calling it a seismic or existential threat, right, to the mission of the university.
Yeah, $110 million. Apparently, according to the university administration, University of Utah Vice President of Research Erin Rothwell, she said, in terms of grant cancellations, we've had 77 grant cancellations.
Yeah.
77 grants. I mean, that's, I can't even imagine what the University of Utah is going to do.
So some of the numbers. So the White House budget proposal for next year called for NIH, which is the National Institutes of Health, to cut their budget by 40%, and about 40% of the University of Utah's research awards are funded by the NIH. It's about $300 million that the university receives. And so if you look at that, one of the things that translates to, they have 7,800 individuals who are funded off of these research awards, and that could really dramatically impact not only people's livelihoods but the research. So I actually have a friend who runs a research lab at the University of Utah. She looks at cardiac health. It's an ongoing project, but I know that she's funded by federal grants, a lot of them, right? And so if you're saying we're going to stop researching cardiac health, well, what kind of impact is that going to have?
Yeah, I had thought at one point that the grants that were being cut back were related to certain findings or certain research projects. But
There's some of that too.
Right, obviously there is, but this doesn't seem to be related to any sort of, DOJ or
transgender research,
yes,
right,
that kind of a thing.
Yeah, right, and that's one of the issues, right? And so one of the things that the federal government has said as well, we think that you're spending too much money on indirect costs. So what that means, I guess, in some people's head is, well, that must be the overhead. Well, it's not just the cost of the lab, but it also is grant recipients who are, facility that, like my friend's research lab, like they have really super high-end equipment that they have to do this really detailed research on, and it's microscopes that can be super expensive. Those are the types of things you're talking about, right? And administrative expenses. There's a lot of stuff that goes into research projects.
Yeah, the White House budget proposal for next year calls to cut the National Institute of Health budget by roughly 40%.
Right.
And about 40% of the university's research awards are funded by the NIH. So, I mean, that's significant. $300 million that they expect to receive over the next several years. I mean, and this isn't the kind of thing, Holly, that the Utah State Legislature can come in and step up to the plate on, because they're
not going to replace the funds.
No,
yeah,
I mean,
they can't replace the funds.
I don't think we have something like $110 million that we can just give to universities, but that's a big cut, and it's nationwide. I mean, we're talking about the University of Utah just as one example, but it's going to hit colleges all over the country.
Yeah, sure. We know Harvard is being hit really hard by the federal government for sure. So there's a coalition. It's called the Financial Accountability and Research, and they they use that to accommodate what you need, right? Operational needs, research support needs, the things the institution needs to conduct research on behalf of the federal government. And so one of the things that a former White House Office of Science and Technology Policy Director said is that even though there's no model for recovering indirect costs that's perfect, that this FAIR model is one that's the best solution for helping to maintain American global leadership. And that's one of the things that people have talked about over and over is we are firing scientists, and we have got a brain drain that is going on. Europe is saying, please come research with us. China is saying, please come research with us, right? So
and they've got money.
And they
Or
have
at least
money.
they're willing to put money into it.
They're willing to say, hey, come here. We'll fully fund your lab. You can have research assistants. You can have the equipment that you need. And so the U.S. is facing a really significant brain drain.
We're talking about a Trump administration proposal to cut medical research at American colleges that could cost the University of Utah $110 million annually. So let me ask this, Holly. Is this part of the, I guess, Project 2025? Is this something that we would have foreseen? Because cuts to medical research isn't something that I've been particularly aware of coming into this.
I don't actually know if it's from Project 2025, although I wouldn't be surprised, but definitely part of the DOGE cuts.
Yeah. There's probably I don't even know. I've seen some of these grants that have been cut back, and individuals that have brought lawsuits against the administration, including one that won. Whether the University of Utah wants to take that on remains to be seen, because, of course, when you bring a lawsuit against the administration, you're not making any friends in the administration as it relates to budget grants going forward in the future.
But then there's the uncertainty that it introduces, right? So it's at first it was, we're cutting this amount of money, and then there was a lawsuit, and then it was like, okay, well, you can have this small portion back. Right. So then you create uncertainty, and then there's no way to project forward. Am I going to have the funding to even complete my research? So I mentioned the EPA really briefly, and over the weekend, the EPA announced that they're planning to just shut down the agency's scientific research arms. And this is an NPR article, but I also saw it on X. The research arm provides expertise for environmental policies and regulations, but we're talking about things like toxic chemicals, smog, wildfire, indoor air contaminants, water pollution, watershed destruction, drinking water pollutants. And we're talking about something like 1,300 scientists just got laid off from the EPA.
You think of all the things that we've gained from our colleges and universities, medical schools, and other labs, and what they've been able to do in terms of scientific knowledge, medical research, medical gains through these grants. I mean, we've talked about vaccines. We've talked about other, the fact that there's so much going on in cancer research right now, AIDS research, pandemic research, that type of thing that is invaluable. I mean, most of our medications right now were probably developed at some lab at some university here in the United States of America sometime in the last 50 to 100 years, and cutting that back doesn't, I don't know, it's part of a plan, and I can understand going into something like this and saying, look, we think there's a lot of wasted money. There's a lot of over budgeting money. There's a lot where we could cut back, but $110 million a year seems like.
And especially if there's uncertainty, right? So again, how do these researchers plan for the future? And a lot of times if you get a grant, say it's a 5-year grant, you have to have, here's my plan for year 1, here's year 2, here's year 3, right? And you can get partway through your process and then you have to shutter the whole thing.
Yeah. And the University of Utah, and maybe I'm looking at this more nationally, but it employs 7,800 individuals for research awards. I mean, that seems like a lot of people to be affected by grant money.
Yeah, there are a lot of people. So you can have student researchers who may be a part of that. You can have it just is. There's so many different things, and we look to the University of Utah and we say we've got the Huntsman Cancer Center and we've got all of these different affiliated organizations, right, that are really trying to do their best to serve not only Utah but the Intermountain West, and the research that the university does is key to that. And now, again, they're talking about taking away enough money that it can just really damage the research moving forward.
We'll keep an eye on that and see what actually comes of that. But when we come back, nearly 1 in 4 Americans over the age of 50, which used to seem like an old age, say they're delaying retirement due to economic concerns. We want to hear from you. Are you changing your retirement plans because of the economy? Text us at 57500 with this answer to this question. Are you changing your retirement plans? Are you staying it off? Are you stalling it because of the economy? Text us at 57500, and we'll talk about that after this break.
9:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Andy Farnsworth. KSL's top local story this hour. A fourth person has died following a house fire in West Jordan. And now police believe that fire was started on purpose. KSL TV's Alex Cabrero has the latest.
Police are telling us right now that they think one of the people who died in the fire is one of those who started the fire. Now, they're not exactly sure yet which person started the fire. They're not also sure of the four identities of those who died in the fire, and they're also not sure of a motive behind it all.
Police say the victims are a man, a woman, and two kids who they believe are all part of the same family. The medical examiner is currently working to figure out the identities of these four people. The neighborhood where this fire happened is now in disbelief. Elijah Anika lives next door to the home that was set on fire.
It felt like a horror movie, you know, like something you would never ever see. Walking out there at night and seeing it completely dark, it was really horrifying.
Anika tells KSL TV his parents heard an explosion and tried helping the girl after the fire started. He also says there was another family living upstairs, but they weren't home at the time. They lost one of their dogs in the fire. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. An Air Force training aircraft has crashed into a school campus in the capital of Bangladesh, killing at least 19 people. The military and a fire official say the aircraft crashed shortly after takeoff into the campus of Milestone School and College as students were attending classes. Local media indicated most of the injured were students. The cause of the crash was not immediately clear, but the military said the aircraft, quote, experienced a technical malfunction after takeoff. Your money at this moment, the Dow's up 0.5% by 228 points to 44,570. Coming up, back to more normal traffic patterns now. Traffic and weather is next. KSL News Time 9:31.
A reminder about the simplest way to get updated for your day.
Hit your KSL preset when you jump in the car, and we'll take care of the rest.
Hear key news updates and traffic reports.
Andy and Amanda from 5 to 9 in your car.
KSL News Radio at 102.7 FM. Andy, my husband, and I had Bedrock Quartz redo 3 bathrooms for us, 2 in the old house and 1 in the new house. And I loved working with them for so many reasons. One of which is that they're like a 4-generation family-owned business here in Utah that has been installing countertops and making beautiful kitchens and bathrooms for years and years.
Well, at my house, I suffer from what's called paralysis of choice. When you've got something as wide-ranging with the different types of counters that they offer with quartz, quartzite, like I didn't even know what the difference between those things are. I'm going to need that kind of help when I go through the process.
Oh, they have wonderful designers. Plus, when you go in their showrooms, it's super easy. At station number 1, you select your color and your material. Then you go to station number 2. And you pick out your backsplash, and then you go to number 3, and you select your faucets. It's so easy to do.
They've got what's called employee pricing for everyone. This is the first time they've ever offered this.
For the month of July through August, everyone gets the friends and family discount.
They've got 9 locations near you from Layton to St. George, including a new one in Salt Lake City. BedrockQuartz.com. That's BedrockQuartz.com.
This is the story of the one. As a safety manager at a manufacturing plant, he does everything he can to keep his coworkers safe. From finding ways to reduce risks to keeping safety supplies in stock. And for that, he relies on Grainger. Grainger offers a broad range of quality products and next-day delivery, so he can always play it safe. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
This message comes from Viking, committed to exploring the world in comfort. Journey through the heart of Europe on an elegant Viking longship with thoughtful service, destination-focused dining, and cultural enrichment on board and on shore. With small ships that bring travelers closer to the destination, there's more time to explore. And every Viking voyage is all-inclusive, with no children and no casinos. Discover more at Viking.com.
1-877 Cards for Kids. KARS Cards for Kids. 1-877 Cards for Kids. Donate your card today.
1-877 Cars for Kids.
KARS Cars for Kids. 1-877 Cars for Kids. Donate your car today.
Donate your car today at carsforkids.org. That's cars with a K. Your car, running or not, can be picked up as soon as the next day. You'll get a maximum tax deduction and a vacation voucher.
1-877 Cars for Kids. KARS Cars for Kids. 1-877 Cars for Kids. Donate your car today.
Now accepting donations of land, homes, buildings, or any kind of real estate.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by Mountain America's Double Rewards credit card promotion. Here's Heather Kelly.
Well, all the crashes that were causing delays on southbound I-15, first starting in Weber County, all the way into the downtown Salt Lake City area, they have all cleared. You still have a little bit of slowing, though, if you're moving from Kaysville to Farmington. That's due to lane restrictions that happen every day. And then the residual delays from southbound I-15, just as you pass 600 North, you're slightly below the speed limit there. That's from the crash that was in downtown that is gone. Northbound I-15 also seeing a little bit of slowing for people trying to exit at 600 South into the downtown area, but everybody else moving at speed. Common Spirit hospitals, clinics, and caregivers all connected to advanced healthcare in Colorado, Kansas, and Utah. Healthcare with Human Kindness is here. Hello, Human Kindness. Heather Kelly in the KSL Traffic Center.
KSL weather today will be partly cloudy with a small chance of thunderstorms. Tomorrow will be sunnier with some light winds. Right now it's fair with a little bit of wind blowing, 84 degrees in Salt Lake City. I'm Andy Farnsworth from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
Okay, Holly, I have to admit this story hits a little bit close to home.
I know.
We're talking about older Americans and their concerns about retirement, and they're calling older Americans U.S. adults 50 years of age and over. Like, that's not old. Those 50-year-olds are just kids. But anyway, according to a new survey from F&G Annuities and Life, which pulled 2,000 United States adults over 50 years old, the life insurance and annuities company found that 23%, almost a quarter of those polled, have already decided to delay their retirement as they grapple with questions about their financial readiness, up from 14% in 2024.
That's
1
a
year.
big jump.
That's a lot of concern over the economy.
Yeah,
that's a
that's
lot
right.
of people that are worried about what's happening. But only 14% a year ago thought they would stall their retirement. Now it's up to 23%.
Yeah.
That's a scary stat.
We want to hear from our listeners. If you're over 50 and you're delaying retirement because of the economy, or if you're not, text us at 57500. But I will tell you, for my husband and myself, we have no plans to retire anytime soon. I plan on working until I'm 70, which is another decade. And my husband is planning on working another decade, so that if we ever do retire, we retire together.
Yeah, and I obviously am a little bit ahead of you here, but I started drawing Social Security, I guess I can admit this, when I turned 66 and a half, because that was my full retirement age, which means you could earn an income and not be penalized by that. That was not long ago, but 66 and a half. But that is going up to 67, I think. People born in 1960 or later can't take full retirement until age 67. Those numbers will continue to increase probably as time goes by. But the median savings apparently for 55-year-olds is just $50,000, which is
that is not enough.
Not going to get you very far, even with Social Security, which is, let's admit, I mean, it's not a great amount of money, but I appreciate it every month.
Yeah, if you can wait until you're 70, then you'll get even more, right? So it'll be 67, and then if you can wait until you're 70, you can get another 24% boost. But one of the numbers that struck me with this study is that people are actually pulling money out of their retirement accounts, right? So we're talking about people over 50, and there are people who are saying that they just can't make it on the money that they've got right now. And so they're starting to pull it out of their retirement accounts and spend it now.
Yeah, and that's a frightening thing to do, because the average retirement age in the United States is 62. But that's that's the earliest age you can draw Social Security. So
Yeah.
it means half the country is retiring at a time and at an age where they cannot draw a secondary source of income, at least through Social Security. Now, maybe they've got a retirement plan through their employment or something like that.
Right.
But I mean, it's surprising to me, and maybe I'm just weird, but I'm still working at my age, have no plans of retirement, but the average retirement age is 62. Seems kind of young.
It does seem young, right? And in addition to pulling out savings, people are also cutting back on putting money into their retirement savings, which of course grows as it stays in there, the longer it stays in there, right? So if my 20-something kids put money in their retirement account now and just let it grow as they continue, they'll be fine when they get into their 60s and 40 years. But for those of us who are getting closer and closer to retirement, right, we're having less and less.
We're talking about a study from F&G Annuities in Life, which polled 2,000 U.S. adults, finding that 23% of those 2,000 adults over 50 years of age, finding that 23% of those have already decided to forestall their retirement. Now that is a 10% increase over last year. 40% of those said they're worried about inflation, and which actually has been under control for the most part. 34% indicate they're worried about recession or a stock market downturn. So it's inflation right now, but looking down the road, do I want to retire given that there could be a recession or a market downturn, and if your retirement or some of your savings are involved in the stock market, and you think, hey, that's going to go down.
Right.
I remember when, was it over the tariffs, when we had that huge drop, so many people were saying, well, there goes my retirement.
Right.
Well, I guess I'll work for another year or two.
Yeah.
And there are always events like that happen, and you think, okay, the stock market's dropped. I can't retire right now. And I don't know that people can rely on Social Security. There's also been some concern that Social Security may not be funded in the future.
Yeah.
Although
I think it's supposed to run out of money in like 8 years.
Yeah, 2035 or 2032 or something like that. Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not a good sign either. I think it's a very personal thing what people want to do when they retire. I see a lot of people that are younger than you and I and who are out retired and enjoying themselves, and they're more power to them if you can afford to do it.
Do that.
But you also have to take into account, and my wife and I have thought about this a lot, fixed costs that you cannot get out of, no matter what, even if your house is paid for, even if you don't owe any money on your cars, you've still got a big nut to crack every year with your property taxes. You've still got, you've got your living expenses, and what if your car breaks down?
Costs, all of those things.
What if you need a new transmission, or what if you just have to buy a new car? I mean, so relying on retirement and Social Security and that is great. It's wonderful, and I think we do a good job in this country. But the cost of, I mean, you look at what housing is costing these days, what people are spending on their houses. It's astronomical. And so we've talked so much about first-time home buyers. Well, let's talk about retirees and whether or not they can afford, if they need to buy a home.
Look, even if you can get your home paid off, right, and you're talking about property taxes, but if the value of your home continues to increase but your income doesn't, then you start to get into some sticky situation there, right, where you maybe can't pay the property taxes because now the value of your home has increased so much. And look, I was a stay-at-home mom for 30-something years, and so I didn't really start earning, quote, retirement income, money that I could put towards retirement or any kind of retirement benefits until just 5 years ago. And so I have a long ramp to try and catch up before I can think about retiring.
Yeah, and a retirement savings for 55-year-olds at $50,000 is, I mean, it's a lot of money to have $50,000 saved up.
Well, if you're talking about like your IRA, that's not
your
very
retirement,
much.
that's not going to be very much. And if you rely on other sources, it's just not going to be there. But I think that the economy is good. I think it's going to continue to be good. I think people could have some optimism in the stock market. We'll see. I'm not giving financial advice by any means because who am I to talk? I'm still working and I'm past retirement age. I have no plans to retire just because I enjoy working. I mean, let's say this is a dream job.
But you can,
I like what we're doing right now. I'll do this forever.
Don't you want to travel?
Yeah, oh no, of course. And my wife is telling me the same thing. Well, what about travel? Well, She's younger than me, so I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, well, you're not going to retire anytime soon, so why should I? And I don't want to be retired while she's
Wow.
not. That was part of our concern.
We're also raising a 10-year-old, so we know we have at least a decade.
you got to stick it out for a little while. Well, when we come back after the break, if you're wondering what the latest is on President Trump's birthright citizenship order, that's the one that will challenge the 14th Amendment to the United States Constitution, we are too. We're going to talk to an expert after the break, so stay with us on KSL News Radio. And remember, you can stream us on KSL News Radio app, sponsored by @YourServicePros.
Regardless of how old your air conditioner is, there are a few things you can do to help it last as many summers as possible. What's up, everybody? I'm Mike Wilson with Any Hour Services, and like so many things in our life, it's easy to take our air conditioner for granted. If you keep a clean filter, rinse the outdoor unit off every once in a while, and have it serviced once a summer, you can reduce your risk of unexpected breakdowns. But eventually it will break down, and if someone tells you that your only option is to replace it, don't be afraid to get a second opinion. You could save thousands of dollars repairing it instead of replacing it. Any Hour rarely comes across an air conditioner that just can't be repaired. That doesn't mean you won't choose to replace it anyway, but being told you don't have options, that's not cool. So if you want honest answers and straightforward options, give Any Hour Services a call. And remember, every week this summer, Any Hour Services is giving away an air conditioner to one lucky customer as part of our Coolest Summer Sweepstakes. No purchase is necessary. You can see official rules or schedule your service at anyhour.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
1-877 Cars for Kids. KARS Cars for Kids. 1-877 Cars for Kids. Donate your car today. 1-877 Cars for Kids. KARS Cars for Kids. 1-877 Cars for Kids. Donate your car today.
Donate your car today at carsforkids.org. That's cars with a K. Your car, running or not, can be picked up as soon as the next day. You'll get a maximum tax deduction and a vacation voucher.
1-877 Cars for Kids. KARS Cars for Kids. 1-877 Cars for Kids. Donate your car today.
Now accepting donations of land, homes, buildings, or any kind of real estate.
Hi, this is Derek Overstreet, president of the New Millennium Group and co-host of Stop Working, Start Living with KSL News Radio. Can you imagine what your life would be like if you could retire 3 to 5 years earlier than you thought possible? The things you could do, the loved ones you could spend time with, the memories that you could create. That's what our team at the New Millennium Group does. We'll walk you through the entire process every step of the way. If you'd like to get a copy of the 5-step proprietary plan that will help you retire 3 to 5 years sooner than you thought possible, give us a shout right now. 888-999-6370. That's 888-999-6370 or utahsfinancialplanner.com. Listen, most of our listeners right now have a tax problem, not a money problem. There's not enough money in Social Security Medicare as it is. Let us show you how you can significantly reduce your taxes. That's 888-999-6370. 888-999-6370 or utahsfinancialplanner.com.
Wesley Financial Group is not a law firm, and Chuck McDowell definitely not an attorney. This is Chuck. If someone talked you into buying something really silly and you want to get out of that silly little thing, my advice, get the facts. Call me and I'll send you our timeshare exit kit absolutely free. Inside, you'll learn how timeshare works and all your options for cancellation.
Call Wesley now for your free exit info kit. 800-486-9600. That's 800-486-9600.
This is the story of the one. As a safety manager at a manufacturing plant, he does everything he can to keep his coworkers safe. From finding ways to reduce risks to keeping safety supplies in stock. And for that, he relies on Grainger. Grainger offers a broad range of quality products and next-day delivery, so he can always play it safe. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Most of us like to be out in the sun. That's why sunscreen and other safety measures are key to protecting your skin from aging and cancer. The FDA recommends using a sunscreen with a sun protection factor, or SPF, of 15 or higher. Also, look for broad spectrum on the label. That means both harmful ultraviolet A and B rays are blocked. UVA rays age the skin, UVB rays burn, and both cause cancer. But the perfect sunscreen doesn't count if you use it wrong. Don't need sunscreen on a cloudy day? Wrong. 80% of UV rays still get through the haze. Only use sunscreen at the beach? Nope. Anytime you're outside, UV rays attack the skin, so you need protection. And you have to reapply sunscreen every 2 hours. Remember, SPF plus broad spectrum equal healthy fun in the sun. Visit www.fda.gov/sunscreen for more information. A message from the U.S. Food and Drug Administration.
The new Inside Sources.
And we're back on Inside Sources. I'm Greg Skordas alongside Holly Richardson talking about the 14th Amendment and birthright citizenship. And if you, just to set our listeners up to speed, by the way, we're just learning that it was 1 year ago today that Joe Biden dropped out of the presidential race.
How about that?
Time flies. So much has happened in the meantime, not the least of which is that President Trump issued an executive order which would change birthright citizenship, which is provided in the 14th Amendment, which says something to the effect that a person born into the United States is a citizen there.
Right.
So that it was enacted 150 years ago after the Civil War ended to prevent slaves from being deported from the United States. The administration issued this executive order, and what happened, and luckily we have a SCOTUS blog person to help us with that in just a minute. But various states around the country issued these nationwide injunctions where a judge would say, look, the administration's decision here is unconstitutional, so we're going to say it applies nationwide. 3 different judges from 3 different federal courts did that. The Supreme Court jumped in, I think, in June and said, you can't do that. Judges can't do these nationwide injunctions. And they sort of hinted that the best way to do it would be for a class action lawsuit, which has now been filed and which is now moving forward. So to help us understand where we are with that, and I probably bungled it already, but is Kelsey Dallas, managing editor of SCOTUS blog, to give us an update. Kelsey, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me. And no, you didn't bungled it. That was basically what's going on.
So go ahead.
So you wrote a piece for SCOTUS blog, just trying to lay out, first of all, you lay out the whole timeline, but just give us a broad overview of, like, the Supreme Court ruled against a nationwide injunction, and now we have another new injunction. Can you talk to us just where we are?
Yeah, this was a case where it made life very difficult for journalists and editors because it was so hard to capture in a headline what was at the center of the Supreme Court case and what was happening in the Supreme Court's ruling. I believe I had talked to you all about that as the Supreme Court was about to release its decision. So many people referred to the case as the birthright citizenship case, but it really could have been called the nationwide injunction case because the court wasn't looking at the constitutionality of the border. They were looking at sort of the constitutionality of these district courts blocking the order nationwide with what's called a nationwide or universal injunction. So on June 27th, the Supreme Court rules that it's outside of the authority of lower courts to block an order across the country. They need to focus their orders instead on the actual parties involved in the case. And that was hailed as this major win for the Trump administration. So many of the Trump administration's policy moves have been put on hold with nationwide injunctions. So now it seems like, okay, there won't be that roadblock. But the fine print of the decision was that there were several circumstances where actually lower courts could still use an order that applied nationwide. One of them being class action lawsuits, one of them being situations where the appropriateness of the administration's actions were being challenged, like sort of very in the weeds about what the administration is allowed to do. And another being that if states are involved in a challenge, which in this case they are, it might be necessary to block the order from taking place in large chunks of the country or even the whole country in order to provide relief to those states. So again, every time I try to explain it, I feel like I make it more confusing. But the point is, what you heard on June 27th about the significance of that ruling was both true and false, because yes, it was true that it's important in the grand scheme of things that there won't be as many nationwide injunctions, but in the birthright citizenship battle in particular, the challengers were really well positioned to access nationwide relief in a number of other ways, including the class action lawsuit that I wrote about in my story.
Yeah, so let's talk about that. So we're talking about a lawsuit now that's been filed, I think it was in Massachusetts. And the judge did say, if I'm correct, that they are the executive order should be blocked, but sort of forestalled execution of that, I think, so that the case could be appealed. Is that right?
Right. So it was Massachusetts and a couple of other states in the Northeast. I believe the judge is actually located in New Hampshire, Matthew LaPlante. He said that he was going to certify the class action as, in regards to babies who would be affected by the order if the order were to take effect, and protected babies across the country. So basically a nationwide injunction saying you can't apply this to any baby while this lawsuit plays out. That was on July 10th. He put his order on hold for a week to give the Trump administration time to appeal and sort of seek to block his order from taking effect.
Yeah, so
did they do that? Did they appeal?
No, they still have the opportunity to, but as of Friday afternoon, the Trump administration hadn't made a move on that class action certification and the related class action injunction.
So when we were reading the Supreme Court's opinion from June, there were three of the liberal justices who sort of were saying, look, you got to address the big elephant in the room, which is this even constitutional? Or is there any way that you can just set aside the 14th Amendment, this birthright citizenship, which has been in effect for 150 years? Is the new ruling, if there's an appeal, is that ultimately going to be the issue now, Kelsey, or are we still dealing with a court's ability to issue an injunction, even if it's part of a class action lawsuit?
We are likely still dealing with the court's ability to block a policy nationwide, whether that's in a class action suit or, as I mentioned earlier, when states are seeking relief, when states are challenging a policy. And I can sense that someone hearing me right now would just put their hands up and scream and be like, what do you mean? How could we still be talking about what courts are allowed to do? But that's just the nature of the judiciary, is that there are all these steps that you travel to even before you get to the heart of the issue of whether the birthright citizenship order is constitutional. And so that is still lingering in the background, and people do believe that the Supreme Court will ultimately take up that question. But we are still in this interim limbo of what type of relief different levels of courts can provide.
It seems to me, and I could be wrong, but it seems to me that the Supreme Court is more anxious to rule on these issues like a nationwide injunction than actually the heart of the issue, right? It seems to me like they don't really want to touch the 14th Amendment.
Well, I would say that the court doesn't want to touch it out of order. So there are several people on the court who are very concerned with following the roadmap that they believe the judiciary is supposed to follow, in a map in which an issue is considered at the district court level and then perhaps appealed to a circuit court level and then appealed to the Supreme Court. And so if they had jumped in and said something about the constitutionality of birthright citizenship, they would have been jumping over a couple of those steps, not to mention that they hadn't had the parties involved do full briefing, full explanations of their positions on the 14th Amendment. So I hear your concern, and I think a lot of people are frustrated. Why wouldn't the Supreme Court just step in? That was mentioned in the dissents on June 27th, but it also makes sense that there's this contingent on the Supreme Court that wants to follow all the steps very carefully.
I love it that you said that, Kelsey. So when we get to the heart of the case, under what theory, and this might be an unfair question, under what theory does the administration claim that we can sort of revisit or relook at the 14th Amendment's what appears to be plain language? I mean, what are they saying about that? It doesn't make sense in 2025.
Well, when you began the segment by talking about the text of the 14th Amendment, I don't have it in front of me, but it says something like people born in the United States or subject to the jurisdiction thereof. And so it really comes down to whether you believe people who are in the country temporarily or illegally are subject to the jurisdiction of the United States. And many legal experts say, of course they are. In some cases, the people that the Trump administration is trying to write off are like filing documents with the government, are paying taxes to the government. But the Trump administration stance would be that they don't believe that category of people, again, those who are in the country illegally or temporarily on some sort of like tourist visa, they don't believe that they should count under that subject to the jurisdiction thereof.
Thank you for joining us, Kelsey.
She, of course, explains it far better than the lawyer in the room. She's wonderful. Did you know that Utah was in the running for a spaceport in the 1970s? Well, they're ready to try it again, and this time they're serious.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
10 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Andy Farnsworth. KSL's top story this hour, a Salt Lake County man was found dead after he went missing in the Yuba State Reservoir Saturday. KSL News Radio's Brianna Willis reports.
The man had been swimming at the North Beach when he went missing around 4:30 in the afternoon. Several departments responded to search the waters, including Juab and Utah County Sheriff's Office and the Utah Department of Public Safety. His body was found about 4 hours later.
The case is still being investigated, and we're not sure at this point if he was wearing a life jacket. A 23-year-old man also died Saturday while cliff jumping at Causey Reservoir. Department of Natural Resources Law Enforcement Sergeant Trent Curry says this is yet another reminder why you need to wear a life jacket.
It's very important to wear your life jackets. Life jackets are required here for everybody. You have to wear them whether you're swimming, on a kayak, on a paddleboard.
Police say on a given day, upwards of 80% of people at Causey Reservoir don't wear life jackets, even though it's possible you could be cited if you don't wear one. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. Park rangers at Yellowstone National Park killed a black bear, saying it was searching out human food.
The National Park Service has a series of concerning events led staff in the northern part of Yellowstone to kill a black bear. It's the first such killing at Yellowstone since 2020. Officials say when bears become food conditioned, they become aggressive and dangerous to humans. The Park Service says this bear last month crushed an unoccupied tent and earlier this month climbed a food storage pole and consumed food. Brian Clark, ABC News.
Your money at this moment, the Dow, S&P, and NASDAQ all up. The Dow up 243 points to 44,585. Coming up, a warm, mostly dry week. KSL weather is next. KSL News Time 10:02.
The sources where we get our news matters.
When you listen to Utah's Morning News, we want you to feel the stories are important to you and trustworthy. This is Amanda Dixon.
And I'm Andy Farnsworth. Join us weekday mornings on KSL News Radio.
Tim Jr. here from RGS Exteriors. I want to tell you about our famous You Don't Need a Warranty warranty. That's right. It's a warranty you don't need, but we give it to you anyway. Let me explain. Most warranty problems for siding, gutters, and windows are caused by not installing stuff right in the first place. If you rush the work, cut corners, or use subpar materials, you're just begging for problems later. At RGS Exteriors, we don't tolerate careless workmanship. We slow down, focus on every detail, and use only the best materials. We prevent warranty work by doing the job right in the first place. That's why the 10-year everything guarantee we give you is also known as our You Don't Need a Warranty warranty. We absolutely will be there if you need to use it. But honestly, you probably will never have to. Done right the first time. That's the RGS way. For siding, gutters, and windows, call 801-280-3110 or visit us at rgsexteriors.com.
All right, Takis fans. Wendy's knows you love your Takis Fuego chips. So we thought, why not make a Takis Fuego meal with a Takis Fuego chicken sandwich with spicy chicken topped with crushed Takis Fuego chips and creamy corn spread. Plus, it comes with Fuego fries inspired by Takis and a bag of Takis Fuego chips. If we had any more heat, we might start an actual... I told him this would happen. For an intense new take on Takis chips, gotta be Wendy's.
Limited time only at participating U.S. Wendy's. Includes 1 ounce Takis Fuego chips while supplies last. Takis and Fuego trademarks are used under license.
This is the story of the one.
As a lineman, he does whatever it takes to keep the power on in his community. And he wants a partner like Grainger who does the same. Grainger offers the professional-grade products he needs, from voltage detectors to harnesses to hard hats, plus fast, dependable delivery, so he can rise to every challenge. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
I am not a rich woman, but I feel like a rich woman every time I go in my closet. The best, hands down, present I've ever received was my husband secretly redid my closet with Closets by Design. So now when I go in there aren't all these shoes just junked on the floor. They're neatly sitting on their shelves. And my necklaces are hanging on their individual hooks, and earrings are in their little squares in this soft drawer that pulls out. It's just gorgeous. In fact, he saw how much I loved it. He had Closets by Design redo the garage. So now all the stuff, the tools, the toys, the junk is all in cabinets. When you open our garage door, you see cars. That's it. It's amazing. The things that Closets by Design can do, and it's going to save you money right now because you get up to 40% off plus an additional 15% off with 18-month financing. You can do so much with your closet, much more than you realize, with this wonderful Utah company, Closets by Design. Find out more at 1-800-BY-DESIGN or closetsbydesign.com.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Mountain America's Double Rewards credit card promotion. Here's Heather Kelly.
We still have our slow traffic southbound I-15 between Kaysville and Farmington due to lane restrictions. And if you're on the 201 freeway heading westbound and you exit at Redwood Road, we do have a stalled vehicle on that exit ramp that'll take you to southbound Redwood Road. It's one of the left turn lanes that's blocked, but there's still a couple other lanes available for you. No other delays right now that I can see on I-15 or on I-80 through Parley's Canyon or coming out of Tooele County. No matter the weather, your feet can feel fantastic. Find the Good Feet location nearest you at goodfeet.com. Heather Kelly in the KSL Traffic Center.
KSL weather today, partly cloudy with a small chance of thunderstorms. Tomorrow, sunnier with some light winds. Right now, though, it is partly cloudy and a little bit windy. 86 degrees in Salt Lake City. I'm Andy Farnsworth from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at KSLNewsRadio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
We asked our listeners earlier in the show if they would text us their thoughts on delaying retirement, and then of course I talked during the entire segment and missed out on a number of texts, but we actually got some pretty interesting ones, Holly.
Yeah, we did. We have one texter who said no, they're retiring early at age 64 due to a great gain from the market.
Somebody that was a smart investor.
Right.
Yeah, because not everyone thinks the market has been great.
That's
One
right.
Woman said, my husband is retiring at the age of 71 in October. He wants to make sure we could have a comfortable retirement. 71 seems like a pretty reasonable age to retire.
Well, it depends on how close you get to it, right?
Yeah.
One says, retired once and went back to work. I'm almost 68, and I feel with the way the economy, it's best to keep getting an income to pay the ever-growing price of everything, including having to pay Social Security state tax when a campaign promise was to eliminate it.
Oops. Yeah, this is a sad one. This is a tragic one that happens far too often. A woman said, I decimated my pension because 4 years ago, both my husband and I had severe medical issues. I was upset that that's where all the money went. I'd saved for retirement, so we didn't have to deal with medical debt. It was just sad.
Yeah. And then the last one we got was someone who said they're 78 and retired, but still working 25 hours a week because it keeps me active.
That's going to be me, I think, in 10 years. Well, let's talk about what we're supposed to be talking about here, which is something that I was completely caught off guard, which is the spaceport. So what I've learned, Holly, and I didn't realize this, in 1971, what was that, 54 years ago, Utah lawmakers made a proposal to create a spaceport committee, and one of the goals was to make Utah a port, to launch reusable spacecraft. Cape Canaveral in Florida got it. So
right, we know where that went.
We could have had one right here in Utah. I didn't know that. I had no idea.
I didn't either, actually, until I read this article in the Deseret News, and this is by the tech reporter, Art Raymond, Tech and Business. But anyway, it's super interesting that Utah was already saying, look, let's go to space, right? So I think there's been 150 something missions that were launched out of Cape Canaveral, but now Utah's trying again to host its own space launch facility, and this one would be entirely homegrown. And it's really interesting to me. Okay, not 150, sorry, 135 space shuttle flights. But earlier this year, there was a bill, SB 62, to create the Spaceport Exploration Committee. It got overwhelming bipartisan support. And there's a 13-member committee. Their very first meeting will be next week on July 28th. But one of the things they want to do is just have Utah be able to send vehicles, I guess, to space, whether that's private space travel or something else.
Yeah, and returnable.
Right,
In other words,
returnable. That's right.
Have a place. And
Right.
certainly we have the land here. I mean, I look at what was it we used to have in Houston or Cape Canaveral with more
like White Sands.
Yeah,
something
go out,
big
go out in the
open desert area.
like
We
that.
have that. Yeah,
Right,
we
where
have
you could
that.
land a spacecraft safely.
Mhm.
Of course, those facilities are good because of the nearby ocean where we were landing a lot of spacecraft in the return shuttles and whatnot that were landing in the water for a softer landing. But nowadays, when you have the spacecraft that can literally land on a runway,
yeah.
you don't necessarily need that anymore. It
Yeah.
seems like a great idea, probably expensive, but it looks like they've created this committee, 13-member committee, and it's going to get started.
One of the things that's super interesting to me, and I used this as my lead story in my Utah Policy newsletter today, is that basically 1/5 of Utah's economy is in the defense and aerospace industry, which is really, that's a lot. I did not realize it was that high. But this committee, the Spaceport Exploration Committee, is co-chaired by Senator Ann Milner. She's up in Ogden. Her other co-chair is the Utah Department of Transportation Executive Director Carlos Braceros. But they're looking at creating, this is to lay their groundwork, right? So what does the state need? What kind of feasibility study? What kind of site assessment? What kind of advantages and disadvantages might Utah have, right? And so Senator Milner said this. She said, I've been engaged in meeting the needs of our growing aerospace and defense industry for many, many years in different roles, and this is the next step in that process. So she says Utah has competed before, and as we looked and had conversations with companies out there, the message is clear that space is part of our future, and industry will be driving our space launches and be used for many more needs than in the past.
Yeah, and it looks like Senate Bill 62, the one that we started this with, Holly, set up this committee for a year-long effort. In other words, we don't want this in 5 years. Let's see where we are in a year and come back with us with your feasibility study.
Yeah, they're definitely going to get right to work, right? So we have another senator, Jerry Stevenson. He wrote an op-ed talking about the 20% of the state's economy. Do you have an idea how many people that would employ in the state? 20% of the economy, 300,000 people employed in defense and aerospace. Right, so
makes a lot of sense.
Yeah,
I'm trying to think what we do with defense and aerospace. I mean, Hill is certainly a big.
So 47G, right? So that's the company that is really doing. They're doing a lot of stuff with space, but also defense companies. So we have a drone manufacturing, at least several. We've got Northrop Grumman, of course, out there.
Sure.
We've got the testing range for rocket boosters, those types of things, right? So we already have quite a bit that is coming. And then we've got Aaron Starks, who's the president and CEO of 47G. He said there's really a fast rising demand, and it's creating new opportunities. And that's one of the things, right, as you shift. So 54 years ago, talking about space exploration was different than it is now when we start to have people like an Elon Musk and other organizations that are saying, hey, we're going to send private trips. We're going to let private citizens take trips into space, and you want those to return safely right to the ground.
You're a former lawmaker. What would make Utah appealing if they did produce a study, a feasibility study, and they went to NASA or any federal agency? What would make Utah attractive, do you think?
I think, first of all, the land, because we do have that land, the environment, right? We're not going to have to shut down a launch because we're having a hurricane come in or anything like that.
Oh, good point.
I think the workforce. So Utah has a very strong workforce, educated workforce. That's one of the things that's appealing as well. And we're heavy hitters when it comes to not only aerospace, but with the economy. Remember, we're number one on a lot of metrics. So I think those are all factors.
Have you ever watched a launch?
I have.
Oh.
Yeah.
I was going to say, if it came to Utah, I'd go.
I would go.
Right.
I was able in Florida to see one time. Not super up close, but it was pretty cool.
Yeah, at Cape Canaveral?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. I've never been to one. I've thought it would be fascinating to attend, and if Utah ever gets this,
we'll be there.
Count me in line. I will be there. Hey, talk about food waste. The State Department is defending their decision to destroy 500 tons of food meant to help starving children. This is a really interesting story, and it involves, well, you'll explain it when we come back after the break. The exact food that was destroyed here. We'll talk about that when we come back.
Listen to KSL for the new and traditional content you've always loved. There's the new Inside Sources, expanded from 9 to noon, and new expanded news coverage with Maria Chaleos on midday, noon to 3. And of course, the news and weather from voices you love, mornings and afternoons. Here are new traditions and the familiar ones on KSL News Radio, 102.7 FM and 1160 AM.
Be advised, this is your opportunity to save up to 40 to 80% on a hot tub or swim spa this weekend only, Friday through Sunday, Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Be advised, this is your opportunity to save up to 40 to 80% on a hot tub or swim spa this weekend only, Friday through Sunday, Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. 18-month interest-free financing. Our factories have demanded we sell 1,000 hot tubs and swim spas this weekend. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Huge factory incentives, factory rebates, this weekend only. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. We can remove your old hot tub. Free delivery of your new hot tub. Hot tub starting at $2,999. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Free delivery of your new hot tub. Just relax and enjoy. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Friday, 2 p.m. to 8 p.m. Saturday, 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. Sunday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Free admission, free parking, free delivery. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Call 833-SPA-SALE or visit hottubandSwimSpaSale.com.
1-877 Cards for Kids. KARS Cards for Kids. 1-877 Cards for Kids. Donate your card today.
1-877 Cars for Kids. KARS Cars for Kids. 1-877 Cars for Kids. Donate your car today.
Donate your car today at carsforkids.org. That's cars with a K. Your car, running or not, can be picked up as soon as the next day. You'll get a maximum tax deduction and a vacation voucher.
1-877 Cars for Kids. KARS Cars for Kids. 1-877 Cars for Kids. Donate your car today.
Now accepting donations of land, homes, buildings, or any kind of real estate.
Five guys walk into a JCW's and order burgers. A pastrami, a mushroom Swiss, guacamole bacon, a hickory barbecue, a ribeye steak, 2 onion rings, 3 french fries, a strawberry, mint, peanut butter, chocolate, and marshmallow shake, and not one left to tip. Because at JCW's, we don't ask for it. We think the price you see should be the price you pay. And all that, would you like to leave a tip stuff, is for the birds. JCW's. Quality and a lot of it. Open in American Fork, Lehigh, Provo, South Jordan, and Harriman.
Hi, this is Derek Overstreet, president of the New Millennium Group and co-host of Stop Working, Start Living with KSL News Radio. Can you imagine what your life would be like if you could retire 3 to 5 years earlier than you thought possible? The things you could do, the loved ones you could spend time with, the memories that you could create. That's what our team at the New Millennium Group does. We'll walk you through the entire process every step of the way. If you'd like to get a copy of the 5-step proprietary plan that will help you retire 3 to 5 years sooner than you thought possible, give us a shout right now. 888-999-6370. That's 888-999-6370 or utahsfinancialplanner.com. Listen, most of our listeners right now have a tax problem, not a money problem. There's not enough money in Social Security Medicare as it is. Let us show you how you can significantly reduce your taxes. That's 888-999-6370, 888-999-6370, or utahsfinancialplanner.com.
Getting help with plumbing repairs is easier than you think. All you have to do is call Any Hour Services or schedule an appointment at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
When it comes to vaping, the truth can get clouded. So let's make it clear. Vaping is not safe for kids, teens, or young adults. It's just not.
Because vaping can put microscopic particles into your lungs.
And dangerous things like metals and volatile organic compounds into your body.
And nicotine, the same highly addictive substance found in regular cigarettes.
Nicotine can harm a person's brain development through their mid-20s,
affecting learning, memory, attention, and impulse control, and priming the brain for other addictions.
Vaping products also come in kid-friendly flavors that can make them appealing to youth.
And many kids also use other drugs, like marijuana, in vaping devices.
With appealing flavors, high nicotine levels, and lots of promotion on social media,
many kids think vaping is harmless, but it's not.
So talk to your kids about the risks of vaping, because when you talk, they hear you.
For more information, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
Inside Sources.
We're learning that the U.S. State Department is defending plans to destroy around 500 tons of taxpayer-funded emergency food resources. Their argument, it's only a small portion of what the U.S. distributes each year.
Well,
that's not the best excuse.
I have an opinion on that.
Right, yes.
Let me just set the background right. So when DOJ said they were going to take a chainsaw to foreign aid, they did. So USAID, which is the Agency for International Development, part of what they do is feed people, right? So we've talked about it a lot on this show, but one of the things that happened when DOJ said we're chopping everything is that everything that was already in progress or process was stopped, and that included food distribution. And so what happened is there were 500 tons of emergency food aid. They were stored in a warehouse in Dubai, and they hit an expiration date just recently, but they had been there for months. And so one of the things that's really frustrating is when you want to talk about waste, fraud, and abuse, this was 500 tons of high-energy biscuits used primarily to provide immediate nutritional needs for children in crisis situations. So they'd been in Dubai and the UAE, United Arab Emirates, to respond to emergencies, and yet they were blocked. So aid agencies were begging the government, just let us distribute this food. And the U.S. the government basically said no, and they ended up destroying them. They burned them, right, last week. And so it's one of the things that's frustrating. So it's $800,000 worth of food, and it cost an extra $100,000 to destroy them. And that food could have fed 1.5 million kids who were severely malnourished, fed them for a week, which, again, in the big scheme of things, maybe that's not too much, but you're talking about 1.5 million kids who could have gotten life-saving nutritional supplement, basically, in these biscuits. But the federal government destroyed them, and they said, you know what, it's okay because we have lots more.
And was it the take of the State Department, Holly, that USAID didn't have the resources to distribute it anymore, or what was the reason why they? I mean, this one really bothers me.
No,
I'll just admit it.
They didn't say
so
that.
Much.
Yeah, they didn't say that. A State Department spokesperson told ABC News last week that it's because they were expired. And it was acquired under the last administration, right? So we're going to blame Biden again. Yes, they expired, but only because they sat in the warehouse for 5 months.
Yeah, and I guess. I mean, it's not Dubai's property, but you'd think the people in Dubai would go, "Hey, we'll take care of it for you."
Right, and they didn't. And it's considered U.S. property, and so that was one of the issues. They were storing it there, but it was on a freeze, and they couldn't distribute it. And so, what happened? Again, you've got a State Department that says this is. It's okay because we distribute roughly 1 million metric tons of food aid every year, and that is less than 1% of the. What is that? That doesn't even make sense to me.
No, it does.
Okay.
It's 1 million tons, and this is 500 tons, and
right,
and
so
that would be 0.5%.
Right, and so it's like, okay, well, it's not that much, but I mean, the numbers are boggling to me where you say this could have fed 1.5 million kids.
Yeah. So, do you know what the commodity was? I mean, it had biscuit, high energy biscuit.
Yeah, but
it's mostly for kids, young people.
Yeah, and so what they do is they'll make these food supplements, well, they'll have like a lot of extra protein in them or something like that, right? Because you're giving them, you want to be able to give a lot of nutrients in basically a small package. For kids who are really malnourished, you've got to be careful with what you give them too, right? And so we know that worldwide we're facing, there are a lot of people in food crisis right now. And so that, even though it was a small portion, again, 1.5 million kids could have benefited from this.
And so if you're talking about the prior administration, I mean, we are in July. There certainly was some time, and we're going to talk later about
President Trump has been in office for 6 months.
So I don't know that we get to say, hey, this was the prior administration's situation, because, you know, what we've done with USAID and other groups that have tried to help, you know, other nations is one thing, but destroying food that was set aside for children takes it to a different level. That's hard to comprehend.
And not only that, like, it's not like the food expired January 21st, the day after Trump took office. It didn't expire until the end of June.
Right.
And so, you know, we know the administration dismantled USAID. We know that they're clawing back $8+ billion with the rescission bill that came. But there are 319 million people around the world facing acute hunger. People in places like Gaza, we know that, in Sudan, South Sudan, Mali, Haiti, people they're on the brink of starvation. I mean, I've written about this multiple times, but there are people who are resorting to eating leaves and sticks and, you know, dirt just to put something in their bellies.
Yeah, and I think you said this before, but U.S. State Department said, if something is expired, we will destroy it. It's a matter of whether or not it's safe to distribute. Okay, my wife will kill me for saying this. I eat everything that's expired. She's always like, throw it away, throw it away, throw it away. And I'm being facetious, and this is not a joke at all. But it's not, we don't want to distribute if it's not safe to distribute.
Right.
It's certainly safer than what you've just described.
Right, and you have to understand, I think, the FDA with expiration dates, there is a grace period after that expiration date, right?
Sure.
And so there is a time where food doesn't automatically go bad on some magic date that says it expires. Now, if we're talking about, like, when I cleaned out my food storage room and I had food that expired 10 years ago, we are not going to eat that.
That's a bad one, right.
But if it expired a few days ago, it's not going to really be a significant change in nutrition. And it's not like biscuits are going to go bad in the weather.
Something like a biscuit,
right,
you would think would have a
longer shelf life,
and would still have, even if it's only got half of its nutrient value,
and it's not going to lose it that fast. It's going to have almost the complete. Yeah. So we are not the decision makers at the top, but I think the defensiveness from the State Department, just shrugging it off and saying, well, we're just going to destroy stuff because it hit an expiration date, and we just have more.
And it's only less
but
than 1%
it's also not being distributed.
Yeah, to countries and people that really need it. It's a sad commentary because we've talked about so much of what the United States has done for other countries. And I can completely understand both sides of the equation. But when USAID got hacked, let's face it, badly, and we're talking about food to other countries, especially to children, you would think there would be some humanity, some ability to look back and say, wait a minute, it's been allocated, it's already here, let's just distribute it, and maybe in the future we won't allocate as much, but just to toss it, burn it, whatever they did is just...
Yeah, I mean, again, I have strong opinions about this. But if I look at Fox News, it says the State Department is now trying to move 59,000 tons of food assistance. So they destroyed a bunch, but now they're trying to get some more in motion. And it's a tenth of what they destroyed.
Yeah. So it expired, looks like around the 1st of this month, like you say, the end of June. It had been sitting there for some time. I imagine these have a fairly significant shelf life. 500 tons, I mean, that's a hard amount to comprehend.
Yeah,
I mean,
right.
There must have been a large warehouse in Dubai that was housing this stuff or holding this stuff. And it could have helped out, what did you say, 1 million kids?
1.5. Yeah, 1.5 million kids for a week. So, I mean, you can condense it down and say, 750,000 for, 3 weeks
2
or
weeks, right.
pushing a month. Yeah.
I mean, frightening.
It was even a story on Good Morning America, right? They're just like, this is not okay. This is not okay, right? Even though the State Department is defending that decision.
You would think that the American public would take a look at this and say, wait a minute.
Well, again,
cutting back on foreign aid is one thing.
Yeah.
And maybe it makes sense that we're not the world's food stockpile, but boy, you've already got it set aside, and there's 1.2 million kids that now have less food.
Yep. And if you're saying waste, fraud, and abuse, I don't think that this solves that problem.
Yeah. Interesting. When we come back after the break, we're going to find out some other things that were in the big, beautiful bill that some people are still scratching their heads at, including a new tax that made it in. I'm still scratching my head at
we'll keep finding stuff out for weeks.
500 metric tons of food that's been destroyed nationally, and the fact that it could have fed a lot of kids. You know, and I'm digressing for a minute, but I can understand cutting back on foreign aid, and I can understand the Project 2025 or whatever saying, look, we're tired of being the world's, hand-holding agency. But I don't know, it breaks your heart when you think about starving kids and the amount of waste that we just had.
I'll just say the food was actually intended for kids in Afghanistan and Pakistan. Yeah. So they destroyed it. It's gone.
We'll be right back.
.30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Andy Farnsworth. KSL's top local story this hour. A fourth person has died from a West Jordan house fire, and police now believe that fire was started intentionally. West Jordan Police Sergeant Andrew Hercules says they believe either the man, woman, or one of the two kids who died from this fire started it on purpose.
I don't know all of the details on how, but what I can tell you is that the fire investigators determined that an accelerant was used to rapidly spread the fire.
Police are still working to figure out exactly who started the fire and why. The medical examiner's office is working to learn the identities of these four people. Police believe they are all part of the same family. A man is dead after getting caught in a rock slide in Little Cottonwood Canyon. Salt Lake County rescue crews say it happened in Bells Canyon. The man reportedly fell 700 feet. No one else was injured. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. How did a SkyWest Delta jet and a B-52 bomber end up nearly colliding in the sky over North Dakota? ABC's Sam Sweeney says that's what the FAA is trying to figure out.
This is a very small airport, just a few flights a day. So the air traffic control is contracted at that airport, and there is no radar. It's what's known as a Class D airport. It's a very small, visual flight rules is how they operate there. So the pilots have to keep an eye out on what's going on around them, and also the towers keeping an eye out for what's going on around them. But in this case, something failed, and they're going to need to figure out what happened.
The SkyWest pilot had to do a series of evasive maneuvers to get out of the path of the military jet. The Air Force says the bomber was going to do a flyover at the North Dakota State Fair. Your money at this moment, the Dow up 215 points to 44,558. Coming up, it's going to be hot but breezy. KSL weather's next. KSL News Time 10:31.
Mornings are for recharging.
And they're for starting your day right.
We volunteer to join you in the car. Get news and weather at 102.7 FM during the most important part of your day.
Andy and Amanda, each morning between 5 and 9 on KSL News Radio.
Do you suffer from depression? The Department of Psychiatry at the University of Utah is currently seeking people between the ages of 18 and 65 who have depression to take part in a comprehensive treatment study. The goal of this study is to see if 2 naturally occurring supplements will improve depression in people living at higher altitudes. Participants will take the supplements for 8 weeks, and the study lasts 12 weeks in total. Participants must already be taking an SSRI or an SNRI medication for at least 8 weeks. Compensation will be provided to study participants. Again, if you are between the ages of 18 and 65 and suffer from depression that hasn't responded to usual antidepressants, the University of Utah is conducting a study that may help. For more information or to take part, please call 801-581-3475 or visit altitudedepressionstudy.com. That's 801-581-3475. or altitudedepressionstudy.com.
You bought a house, or maybe you're building one, but it just isn't feeling like home. Not yet. AMC Building Materials has this undeniable knack for transforming a house into a home, your home. How do they do that? They combine years of exceptional kitchen and bath creations with your ideas. In fact, customer satisfaction is their #1 priority. You know what you want. You know it's not going to be cookie cutter, and this is exactly where AMC shines. AMC delivers exceptional quality, bold-style kitchen and bath designs, along with their exceptional value and a timeline you'll love. Most projects are complete by the elite AMC professional installers in under 10 days. Immerse yourself in the beauty, function, and feel in person at the AMC Building Materials Showroom in Salt Lake City. Get directions and schedule your free estimate at amckitchenslc.org. AMC Building Materials, transforming your house into a home. amckitchenslc.org.
Ooh, ma. What was that? That is business phone bliss with the Ooma Cloud phone system. It handles all our voice, video, and messaging needs.
You sound very...
Calm? I am. Ooma has everything I need to run my business more efficiently, like virtual receptionist, call routing, and video conferencing. And it starts at just $19.95 per month per user, plus taxes and fees.
Ooma.
Nice. Find your business calm at ooma.com/radio.
This is the story of the one. As a lineman, he does whatever it takes to keep the power on in his community. And he wants a partner like Grainger who does the same. Grainger offers the professional-grade products he needs, from voltage detectors to harnesses to hard hats, plus fast, dependable delivery, so he can rise to every challenge. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by Mountain America's Double Rewards credit card promotion. Here's Heather Kelly.
We have a couple minor fender benders and a stalled vehicle, but they are not really causing any delays right now. Where you will see the slowdowns is southbound I-15 between Kaysville and Farmington. That's due to those lane restrictions. The right lane is blocked as you head into Farmington. And then the stalled vehicle is the other one maybe causing a little bit of consternation. It's westbound 201 freeway right as you exit at Redwood Road. The center lane of that exit ramp is blocked, but people can still move to the right and the left. Heather Kelly in the KSL Traffic Center.
KSL weather, we should get up to 95 today, and it's going to be breezy through the day and into tomorrow. Then we stay in the low 90s through the Pioneer Day holiday. Right now it is partly cloudy and windy. Salt Lake City, 84 degrees. I'm Andy Farnsworth from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We are Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
You know, Holly, it seems like every day or every other day we learned one more thing about the one big, beautiful bill that we didn't know the day before. And what I learned over the weekend was that it had an impact on, of all things, gambling.
I know. And, you know, the headline to the article we're going to talk about is how did this get into the GOP budget bill? So joining us in studio, we have Jay Evenson, the opinion editor of the Deseret News, who wrote this article about
gambling and taxes. Now, the interesting thing, Greg and Holly, is that you're learning new things every day, and so are the people who voted for the bill.
Right. That is exactly right.
So what does it do to gamblers?
Well, under the old law, you got to deduct all of your losses up to the point of your earnings. So if you're a professional gambler and you won $10,000 in a year, but you lost $9,000, you would only pay taxes on the $1,000, the difference in that.
That makes sense.
Somewhere at the end of the when the Senate was considering this great, big, beautiful budget bill, someone, we don't know who, added this provision to the bill that changes it. So now you can only deduct 90% of your losses. So under that same scenario, you would be able to deduct only $8,100, and you would, in a sense, have to pay income tax on $900 of income you never really realized.
Well, first of all, is there really such a thing as a professional gambler? I mean,
there
really?
is.
Oh,
yeah,
so.
There are. You know, I used to work in Las Vegas in the media, not in a casino. And yes, there are. And the people I've been talking to say that the casinos, the sports books, the online gambling services, they would just as soon not have these professional gamblers, or sharps as they're known, because they make most of their money off of regular people who gamble kind of on a whim and aren't really carefully considering odds. They're doing it more with their hearts than with their brains. So there's a lot of hue and cry out there but you have to kind of pay attention to where it's coming from. A lot of it is coming from these, quote, professional gamblers. A lot of it is coming from the state of Nevada, and you've got a lawmaker there, a representative, who now has a bill to try to repeal this from the budget bill. The question is whether anybody else cares much in the country. But the other side of this is that we're becoming a nation awash in gambling. So perhaps there is a constituency out there that really cares about it. And some of these lawmakers are saying that they're getting more calls on this issue than they were on cuts to Medicaid. That's really sad to me.
Wow.
that we're so concerned about gambling in this country that's what we're thinking about. But I do think the average person who gambles probably won't think about this until they're doing their standard deduction in April on TurboTax, and they're running across it, and they'll be like, "Oh shoot, what's this all about?" And
right.
then, and hopefully they don't have $10,000 in losses.
So Jay, we see these gambling websites that are always on TV. Is that a group that was in favor of this then? Because of the fact that you say that certain groups were against it, but the gambling sites, when you say they make most of their money off dummies like me, and I don't gamble, but because I learned long ago it doesn't pay. But the person on the street who just I'll throw in for my home team or something like that. The professional is a little more sophisticated, I guess.
It's difficult for me to say with any kind of certainty that that's true. There is an organization called the American Gaming Association, and they're kind of the umbrella group for casinos and all these outfits. They were were quiet on this. Now you can argue they didn't know about it. I talked to an expert back east who said they have all kinds of lobbyists. He can't imagine that they didn't know about it. But then if senators and representatives didn't know about it when they were voting on it, it's easy to believe that. Now the AGA, American Gaming Association, now says that they are interested in rolling back this law. But whether it has the momentum that it needs, I don't know. It's kind of like Congress has moved on.
Mm-hmm.
They went through so much wrangling and so much pain to get that budget bill passed. They want to move on to other things. So we'll see what happens.
So you mentioned that nobody really knows how this got in the bill. How is that possible? Somebody had to have written it in or made an amendment or something.
We could say that about a third of the bill, I think.
Yeah, well,
you should be able to trace it back, is what I'm saying.
Right,
there should be some kind of paper trail.
There should be. I read a piece. I can't remember it was I think the Wall Street Journal or some large news organization that said we're having a hard time tracing this and finding out. I mean, obviously, you would think the Senate president has to know that this is being added and agree to add it. But you're talking about a bill that's about 1,000 pages or more.
Yeah.
And this is the problem that Republicans used to always complain about, Democrats passing these huge omnibus bills.
Right.
And now it's Republicans doing it.
That's right. You have to pass the bill to know what's in the bill, right?
Exactly.
I remember that statement.
Yes, somebody famous said
That's
that
right.
once. Yes.
Cami Mondo joined us. She's the Deseret News congressional correspondent. She joined us the morning after the bill passed the Senate, and she said that they were writing as they were voting, like they were still writing pieces into the bill. And by they, a lot of times it's the young staffers who are back there writing something and sticking it in. So
we had the president imposed an arbitrary and hard deadline of the 4th of July, which forced a vote by a lot of people who just didn't really know everything they were voting for.
I have to say this, Jay. To me, I mean, just from the outside looking in, the professional gambler probably isn't the most sympathetic group in America for people to look at. But the I guess I'll call him the recreational gambler, the one that gets in trouble, the one that spends money they shouldn't and somewhat becomes addicted, is a sympathetic person. And it seems like, I don't know that this helps them either. You know what I mean? It in fact maybe hurt them more.
Yes, and some people are worrying that it's going to dry up gambling because now you have a futures market in this country now that looks a lot like gambling, and you can actually gamble on the outcome of elections and that kind of thing through these futures markets. And so they're worried that it's going to push a lot of people into those areas or even to offshore. Most gamblers today, recreational gamblers, use apps on their phone, and those organizations could be anywhere in the world that taking their money, so it doesn't have to be in the United States. But there's a lot of evidence out there that these gambling organizations are taking advantage of those people and luring them into addictions, basically, and trying to feed those addictions. There's a lot to talk about here and a lot that we could go into.
What do you think an organization or a group, and this might be an unfair question, Jay, would have been behind this? How did this slip into the bill? You know what I mean? I can see that it raises money. I mean, it will, I think you said in your article, it could raise more than $1 billion over time. But I mean, so somebody was thinking maybe it's just looking at it that way. I was just wondering if there's a specific group or any cause that was really concerned about this.
Not that we know of. Now, a cynic would say that organized gambling wanted this so that they could focus more on just the regular, the regular people who don't know what they're doing. It certainly wasn't being pushed that we know of by any gambling organization, but it's hard to know how something like this just slips in. On its face, it seems like this is something that people opposed to gambling would be behind, but they're generally not shy about announcing what they're behind.
Right.
So
or claiming credit after the fact, right?
Right. Yeah.
And you'd expect they'd have a pretty powerful lobby.
Yes.
Well, Jay, do you mind sticking around?
Oh, happy to.
We're going to torture you for 2 segments today, and we're going to talk about U.S. Reversing its course on sending arms to Ukraine. Jay Evenson will be staying with us to talk about that.
Worried about market losses? If headlines are keeping you up at night, it's time to take control. Hi, I'm Jeff Jr. with Trajan Wealth, and I know you've worked hard to save. But in times like these, what if can turn into what now? If you're planning to retire or are in retirement, you need a strategy that helps protect your future. At Trajan Wealth, you can capture market gains, protect your account from losses, and guarantee income for life. Right now, you could receive a bonus of up to 30% or annual growth of up to 10% for retirement income. You heard me right. An upfront bonus of up to 30% or annual growth of up to 10%, all guaranteed to boost your lifetime income in retirement. Don't leave your future to chance. Plan with confidence. Call Trajan today at 801-899-7600. That's 801-899-7600.
Annuity guarantees are based on the claims paying ability of the issuing insurance company, DBA, in most states as Trajan Wealth Insurance Solutions.
You trust us for news and information in your car. Now trust us at home. KSL News Radio has you covered, keeping you informed on the latest breaking news, weather, traffic, sports, and more. Listen on your Amazon Echo or Google Home device. Just say, Alexa, open KSL News Radio, or listen on the KSL News Radio Listen app. Text the word app to 57500. KSL News Radio. We have you covered.
You're listening to Leaf Filter Radio, and the guru of gutter protection himself, Chris Coonahan, is here to take your most pressing leaf-related questions.
Hey, everybody, Chris here. I understand we have Ron on the line. Ron, where are you calling from?
Uh-oh. Ron, are you calling from a ladder?
Well, I was. I wanted to ask Chris what I need to do to get my gutters ready to have Leaf Filter installed.
Oh, Ron, you don't have to do anything. A Leaf Filter Trusted Pro will come out and clean out your gutters, realign and seal your gutters, and install Leaf Filter, America's #1 gutter protection system.
So I didn't need to get on this ladder?
Ron, Leaf Filter Trusted Pros are in your neighborhood and ready to help. Just visit leaffilter.com/deal to schedule your free gutter inspection and get up to 30% off.
Thank goodness. What was that site?
That's leaffilter.com/deal for your free gutter inspection today. See representative for warranty details. Promotion is 20% off plus a 10% senior or military discount. One discount per household.
Getting help with electrical repairs is easier than you think. All you have to do is call Any Hour Services or schedule an appointment at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
I'm Andrew Saul, Commissioner of Social Security. I'm here to warn you about telephone scammers pretending to be government employees. Some of these scammers may say threatening things like you will be arrested if you don't make payments or provide personal information. Do not fall for these tricks. These calls are not from us. Real Social Security employees will never threaten you for information or money. If you receive a call like this, hang up. Never give the caller your personal information, like your Social Security number or bank account, or send money in any form, cash, gift cards, wire transfers, or prepaid debit cards. Report the call to our law enforcement arm, the Office of the Inspector General at oig.ssa.gov. Share this information with your friends and family.
Matthew.
Huh? Oh, sorry.
It's okay. I just need you to listen to me.
I know that a lot of times, Mom, it might not seem like I'm listening to you, but I am. I hear you. And what you say really does matter to me.
I mean, let's be honest. No kid likes rules, but I get why we have them. I hear you, and I know it's because you care.
All the talks we've had over the years, including what you've told me about not using alcohol and other drugs, they stick with me. And believe it or not, they really do make a difference, especially at times that matter most.
Hey, want a drink?
No thanks, I'm good. So thank you, Dad, for talking and preparing me for what's ahead.
Thanks, Mom, for never giving up and always being my biggest fan.
Thank you for letting me know what you expect, so I can try to meet your expectations.
Thank you for talking.
For more information about talking with your kids about underage use of alcohol and other drugs, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
And expanded Inside Sources.
You know, it's really sad that we're still talking about the war in Ukraine, which has gone on seemingly forever. Just 4 months ago, Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky visited the White House in what ended up being a fairly tense meeting with President Trump with respect to the war. We were able to convince our good friend Jay Evenson to stick around for a moment and talk to us about this. So you wrote an article, or you were part of an article that came out from the Deseret News editorial board over the weekend that seemed to be supportive of the U.S.'s decision, and I'm trying to paraphrase something that you can explain better, to contribute to NATO more to help with the war in Ukraine.
Yes. I mean, we clearly see that Russia was the aggressor in this war, and that NATO in particular, and the United States, which is a part of NATO, excuse me, has a real interest in seeing Ukraine win here because of Vladimir Putin's seeming expansionist goals. It's a whole different matter when you're over in Europe and you realize how close in proximity everything is, and you see how close you are to Russia, and you realize how easy it would be for him to crush some of those countries belonging to NATO. And we think as a board, it's very important that NATO live up to its charter, and specifically where an attack on any one nation is attack on all.
Mm-hmm. I think one of the things that's interesting to me and is that this is a reversal of something that Pete Hegseth did, which was announced that the U.S. was no longer going to send weapons, right? And then it was President Trump who said, well, yes, we are.
It's hard to read reasons and why things happen in the administration, but at least on the surface, it became clear to President Trump that Vladimir Putin wasn't interested in coming to the table. I mean, they met back in March, and there was an exchange of prisoners, and it seemed like maybe they were on the road to some kind of a ceasefire agreement, but Russia quickly and clearly began attacking again and has not relented. In fact, there was one last night, a mass attack that included the entrance to a subway and stranded a lot of people on a platform there for a while. So, and his reaction is that Vladimir Putin is not going to be serious about peace, therefore we're going to rearm Ukraine.
Jay, what do you make of the fact that the administration has, instead of giving weapons to Ukraine, given weapons to NATO, it seems like, with the idea that they're going to Ukraine? I mean, what's politically behind that, do you think?
You know, this is something that the board really supports, is President Trump's insistence that NATO pay its way under the NATO agreement and spends more for its national defense. It wasn't so big of an issue in the first several years of NATO because you didn't have that kind of a threat from the Soviet Union anyway back in those days. But now when there's a real threat, you can see the need for those countries to spend more on their own military. And they're doing so. And they're doing so, I think, because they're afraid. They're afraid of what might happen if they get attacked. And I see this. My wife and I go to Sweden about once a year. Sweden hasn't been in a war since 1814.
Wow.
And it's such a peaceful country. And yet, if you go there now, they're really ramping up. People are getting things in the mail telling them how to act in case of an attack. There is a concern because they're on the Baltic, and that's seen as a major strategic inroad now internationally. There's an island off of Sweden called Gotland, and Sweden has really militarized that in the last several months, and the Russians have been complaining bitterly about that. There's concern that that would be the first thing attacked if Putin were to expand, because if you can control the Baltic, you can control shipping, and you can control a lot of important things in Europe.
So both Sweden and Norway were not members of NATO until just recently.
Actually, NATO or Norway was an original charter member of NATO. Yeah.
Okay.
Mainly because of what they had to go through under Nazi occupation during World War II. Sweden has always been independent and not aligned with anybody. Finland was not a member of NATO. They were always kind of afraid of what might happen if they joined, having a long border that's contiguous with Russia. But since the attack on Ukraine, both Sweden and Finland have joined NATO now and are part of that alliance.
It reminds me of the Three Musketeers, right? All for one and one for all. The idea of NATO, right? Because they're little countries, but if you've got the backing of somebody like the United States and the rest of Western Europe, that can make a difference.
A huge difference, yes. And the United States is the big player in the world. And there was concern after Sweden and Finland joined and President Trump was elected that we were somehow backing away from our obligations there. And this most recent move, rearming Ukraine, is, I think, an important sign that we are still here and we still care about our allies in Europe.
Jay, what do you make of when you talk about rearming Ukraine, of including Patriot missiles as a part of that rearming? That seems like a pretty significant increase in some of the support that we've given Ukraine over the years. I mean, I know that it's not the first time, but Patriot missiles, that sends a pretty big message from what I'm thinking.
Yes, well, I mean, those are offensive weapons, right?
Right.
And so this is more than just giving Ukraine the ability to defend itself from incoming attacks. It's giving them something with which to attack. And I think the president is trying to send a message to Vladimir Putin that we're serious about this. He's imposed a 50-day deadline. It says Russia has to come to the table within 50 days, or he's going to impose further tariffs, and he's also going to put sanctions on other countries that are doing business with Russia. That second part there could be a really important thing, I think.
What I see is that Putin doesn't really care much about a 50-day deadline, and he just takes that as permission to continue drone attacks on, even on Kyiv, right in the heart of Ukraine.
It would seem so, yes. And he doesn't want to. I don't think he wants an agreement that cedes any part of Ukraine back to the Ukraine sovereignty. He wants it, and at the least, he wants to grab as much territory as he can before sitting down and saying, okay, we'll freeze in place what we have. It doesn't look to me like there's a real pathway for peace in 50 days.
What's happened in the months since Vladimir Zelensky was here and was sort of attacked by the administration and basically, well, not basically, but told, hey, you started this mess, to now saying, hey, let's get some funds and let's get some resources, let's get some munitions to NATO and help them out. I mean, what do you think has caused that shift?
Well, the only thing that really comes to mind is kind of what it appears on the surface. President Trump feels like he's been insulted by Vladimir Putin, and he promised, Trump did, when he came into office, he would solve this war in a day. And that's been a lot harder than he thought. But I think the president, of course, he's been nominated for a Nobel Peace Prize by Benjamin Netanyahu. I think he would really like to broker a peace agreement here and show that he's, a serious player in ending wars and that kind of thing. And Putin's standing in his way, and I think he's very angry about that.
And 50 days means let's get something together. I mean, that's a long time in terms of Trump's usual negotiating period, but it does send a fairly significant message to Putin saying, okay, you've got this much time put up or shut up, or we're going to not only impose sanctions on you, but we're going to impose sanctions, as you said, Jay, on countries that do business with you.
Yeah. 50 days is a deadline, but then his deadlines have been kind of squishy since he came into office, whether it's tariffs or whatever. So we'll see what happens at the end of 50 days, if there's an extension or if he gets serious about this.
So what kind of countries are we talking about, like Iran, North Korea, China, those? Like, who are the players that could be impacted?
A lot of countries probably do significant business with Russia.
Yes, and well, Germany was doing getting a lot of energy resources from Russia, and I'm not sure of exactly which countries, but I think throughout Europe there's trade still going on with Russia, so this could harm allies as well as foes.
Yeah, I mean, I think that a lot of European countries get a lot of, like you say, energy, natural gas resources from Russia, and it could affect them as well.
Maybe that's why they're going to nuclear.
Yeah, there we go.
Right.
Well, Jay, thanks for joining us again. You've been wonderful.
Thank you for
joining us on Monday mornings. We'll see you next week, I hope.
Yep.
You know that they say nothing is certain as change. Well, change is definitely coming to education in Utah. We'll talk with Sutherland Institute education specialist Christine Cook Fairbanks on how Utah can prepare. Stay with us.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
11 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Jessica Lowell. KSL's top story this hour. We had another deadly weekend on our reservoirs, including at Causey Reservoir, where police say a man died while cliff jumping.
Authorities say the 23-year-old man went into the water Saturday afternoon, briefly resurfaced, but went back under and never came back up. Police say 911 calls started coming in around 2:30, then dive teams found his body just under 7 hours later. This incident has led officials like Department of Natural Resources Law Enforcement Sergeant Trent Curry to once again ask people to wear a life jacket no matter what you're doing on the water.
It's almost like wearing your seatbelt in a car out on the highways. We would definitely recommend and suggest that you wear those life jackets.
Police say life jackets are actually required at Causey Reservoir, yet upwards of 80% of people on a given day don't wear them. Adam Small, KSL News Radio.
Our top national story this hour from ABC News. A federal judge in Boston heard arguments today over Harvard University's lawsuit challenging the Trump administration's decision to strip it of billions in federal grants.
A lawyer for the Trump administration argued that Harvard officials simply didn't read the fine print of their contracts, allowing Washington to cancel the agreements if they don't align with the government's priorities. In this case, the administration says its priority is combating anti-Semitism. Harvard says its First Amendment rights are at issue, and it accuses the government of trying to impose its views on the school, pulling back more than $2 billion as a punishment for refusing to go along.
ABC's Stephen Portnoy reporting. And your money at this moment. Green Day on Wall Street, Dow up 243 points. Coming up, a small chance of storms in the afternoon. KSL weather is next. KSL News Time, 11:02.
A reminder about the simplest way to get updated for your day.
Hit your KSL preset when you jump in the car, and we'll take care of the rest.
Hear key news updates and traffic reports.
Andy and Amanda from 5 to 9 in your car.
KSL News Radio at 102.7 FM.
For nearly 70 years, Les Olson IT has been the trusted name for businesses. From state-of-the-art printers and copiers to managed IT services, we have the solutions you need to stay ahead in today's world. And now Les Olson IT is trusted and licensed in Utah for security systems, for technology that helps you work smarter. Les Olson IT, providing solutions that empower your business.
Les Olson IT.
Hi, this is Doug Wright. For years now, I've been telling you about Connecticut soft water systems that use 2/3 less salt than the others. But I've never told you exactly how they do that. Well, there are several ways, so consider this as part one in a series. Most of the softeners out there use a finicky, hard-to-adjust computer to guesstimate when to cycle, and it errs on the side of cycling too often, which means it'll burn through way too much salt way too soon. Connecticut is different. It has an all-mechanical system that measures the water precisely. No computer, no guesstimating, so it cycles only when needed. The result, Kinetico delivers perfectly soft water 24/7 using minimal salt. So why not save your lower back from carrying the 3 bags of salt when all you need is 1? Call Northern Utah's authorized Kinetico dealer, Kinetico Quality Water Systems of Salt Lake. Call them now, 801-576-8600, or log on to softwaterutah.com and tell them Doug sent you.
Wesley Financial Group is not a law firm, and Chuck McDowell definitely not an attorney. This is Chuck. If someone talked you into buying something really silly and you want to get out of that silly little thing, my advice, get the facts. Call me and I'll send you our timeshare exit kit absolutely free. Inside, you'll learn how timeshare works and all your options for cancellation.
Call Wesley now for your free exit info kit. 800-486-9600. That's 800-486-9600.
Why'd I go to the doctor? One day at the firehouse, I was so lightheaded I could barely stand. Even my crew noticed. Getting checked out was the right call. Turns out I have atrial fibrillation, which increases the risk of stroke about 5 times.
Symptoms like irregular heartbeat, heart racing, chest pain, shortness of breath, fatigue, or lightheadedness can come and go. But if it's AFib, the risk of stroke remains. If you have symptoms, contact a doctor.
I'm so glad I did.
Visit NoTimeToWait.com, sponsored by Bristol-Myers Squibb and Pfizer.
On Thursday, August 7th, the Orrin G. Hatch Foundation will present U.S. Senator Tom Cotton with the Titan of Public Service Award at the Grand America Hotel in Salt Lake City. You're invited to join Senator Cotton, a senior member of the Senate leadership and chairman of the Intelligence Committee. The evening will also feature a performance by America's violinist Jenny Oaks Baker. Seats are limited, so reserve your tickets today for this special event at OrrinHatchFoundation.org. That's ORRIN Hatchfoundation.org.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Mountain America's Double Rewards credit card promotion. Here's Heather Kelly.
We don't have any accidents right now across the Wasatch Front. The earlier stalled semi-truck on the exit ramp from the 201 freeway heading westbound to Redwood Road has cleared. So pretty much you've got a good drive, except for some lane restrictions in some areas. Southbound I-15 between Kaysville and Farmington, you'll slow down from time to time because the right lane is blocked, as well as coming out of Tooele County on SR 36 at Lake Point. Heather Kelly in the KSL Traffic Center.
A 20 to 30% chance of thunderstorms in central and southern Utah. Along the Wasatch Front, we have a 10% chance. Fire danger stays elevated today. Right now, it's 86 degrees and partly cloudy. I'm Jessica Lowe from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
Over the past several weeks, we've seen some major developments in national education policy and changes that are therefore coming to Utah. What can Utah policymakers and educators do to be ready for these changes? Joining us now is Christine Cook Fairbanks, the Education Policy Fellow for the Sutherland Institute.
Welcome, Christine. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. Appreciate it.
So I'm the editor of Utah Policy and was able to publish a piece from you this morning. And I wondered if you would just talk to us, just kind of lay the groundwork for us about your piece about the changes that Utah needs to be ready for.
Yeah, there's a lot happening in the education space, and a lot of it's trickling down from the federal level. So just within the past couple of weeks, right, there's been two big things. There's a federal education grant funding freeze for about 6 different grants, and it's really kind of causing some questions at the local level right now. And then also a ruling last week that President Trump can effectively move forward with laying off half of the U.S. Department of Education, which is all part of this goal of moving things to the states. So it's really an opportunity for states to think, okay, these changes are real, they're happening, and also to consider that more are coming. And so it's an opportunity for leadership and also to kind of look at policies that might need to change.
So as we think about change and what you've just described, the federal funding freeze, that's a mouthful, laying off educators,
Yes.
people from the Department of Education, you had some ideas or some plans for what Utah could be doing moving forward.
Yeah, I think one of the things that is already happening is that the state is trying to work with districts and say, hey, how can some of these 2-year grants carry over into the next year? They also have some plans in place if they don't have that. But ultimately, I think it's an opportunity for the state to understand the different federal funding streams. Earlier this year, there was an audit to look at how federal funds have been used in the past 3 years. That's a great example of something to continue to do to understand where we're at and where it actually flows to. And then the other is to require a detailed local school district contingency plan. I think a lot of them do this just as a best practice, but also to require it. There was some reporting that, they said they were talking to different school districts and asked them, how are you responding to this? And they said, we don't know, which is, I think, understandable, but kind of a bad place to be, right? So having these things in place, I think, is really useful. And then just as a state in general, we know that more is coming, right? The 2026 U.S. Department of Education budget talks about these very grants that are frozen right now. And the plan is ultimately to consolidate them. Some people say that eliminates it, but to consolidate them and so that they function differently at the state level. What does that mean? That could mean a lot of different things, but we're in a place where a state can plan ahead. They can set aspirational goals for what they want to achieve in education. They can understand funds. They can create state policy that can make up for this. I think about the state legislature's ability to, hold harmless, for instance, the public education system as declines are happening in districts. So things like that, mechanisms, getting those in place to kind of respond, I think would be really useful at this point.
So, Christine, let me ask you this: these funds that are being frozen, we've talked about that on our show before, and it really. They were funds that were already allocated. People were expecting them to be distributed on July 1st, the start of the new fiscal year, but they're really impacting like after-school programs, maybe second language learning. Are these programs that you think, or in your discussions, is this something that Utah is interested in, like covering the cost for those?
Well, I think that it's certainly a state's prerogative if they want to, and certainly there's a demand for it and a chunk of kids that really need it. And so I would think that Utah would have the appetite to backfill or to make sure that these are continuing. And as far as the after-school programs go specifically, 40% is coming from the federal funding. So that's a huge amount. I think I'm hopeful that in the end, these funds will come through, even if it's like a reimbursement later. But obviously, there's a lot of legal questions, which I did not get into in the piece. But the policy side of it, I would think that the state would ultimately want to kind of backfill that and help there.
And don't you suppose, Christine, that the states are probably going to have to come up with some financial support if these funds are cut back? I mean, and Utah, we seem to be doing quite well here, but nationally, states are going to have to step up to the plate.
Yes, and the one encouraging thing I would say, or not the one, but an encouraging thing about Utah is Utah's very balanced, I think, in their approach with education. They really try to honor the institutions and the systems and try to put funding in the public school system, even as things kind of move more towards choices and options and moving things back to the family. So I think something like this would make sense in Utah. And the legislature, in my opinion, people might disagree, but seems to be responsive to those sorts of demands for what's already existing.
So speaking of the legislature, you actually mentions the education interim, not just committee, but their study items. Can you talk to our listeners a little bit about what our legislators are looking at right now in between legislative sessions?
Yeah, so the interim study obviously is, once a month. And one of the things that I mentioned in the piece is that they do have listed the need to study federal education changes. And I think that's really wise. I hope that what it includes ultimately, I don't think they've actually gotten around to this issue and in a substantive way, but is to think through an expanded role for the state, to think through other things like Title I, IDEA, civil rights and accountability issues. These are some of the things that people assume will have some flexibility and changes, and I hope that the state's thinking through those. Title I and IDEA, there's been kind of a constant understanding that those funds will not be reduced in any way, although they might increase in flexibility. So that could look different in each state of how they use it. So I'm grateful that they're setting this early.
Yeah, and are you learning, because you talk about in your article that Utah needs to do things to prepare? Are you getting some optimism that in fact that our leaders here are in fact doing that?
I think so. I mean, I think there's more conversation than there was even when I wrote an op-ed back in April. I think the tricky thing, though, about planning, and I think this is the feedback that I've heard from other states as well, is that it's hard to know what to plan when everything is so abrupt, sudden, and you don't necessarily know where it's going. So it feels hard to plan for something you just couldn't even guess. Although, as I mentioned, some of these things, there's been rumors kind of percolating over time about consolidating grants, flexibility. So those sorts of things, I think we can, understanding that you might get a random email from Washington saying something's being halted. And that's also not new. We saw some of this earlier in the year, in January during the legislative session. There was an executive order that paused some federal funding that affected a number of different agencies. So this is the other key piece I would say is, we're 6 months into this administration. There's 3.5 years. Kind of expect the unexpected. And I think we might be in a fairly okay headspace.
Thank you, Christine. That was Christine Cook Fairbanks, Education Policy Fellow with the Sutherland Institute. And I think, Holly, that was some good advice to our educational leaders in the state that, hey,
expect the unexpected.
Changes are coming and it's time to step up to the plate. She mentioned that we're 6 months into this administration, and we want to talk about that. Yesterday was July 20th, which means exactly 6 months since Trump was sworn in as president. We'll talk about what that means and what's happened since he took office on January 20th. Stay with us on KSL News Radio, and remember, you can stream us on the KSL News Radio app, sponsored by At Your Service Pros.
Behind the curtain of Utah and Washington politics.
It seems like the federal government is now saying to the states, you have much more control of your destiny.
And expanded inside sources.
And so our legislature is trying to figure out what their boundaries are.
Well, even like FEMA, right?
Yes.
Wildfire disasters.
The all-new Inside Sources.
If we have to pay for it all of ourselves, can we afford that as a state?
Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson, now on 9 to noon on KSL News Radio.
Amanda, we love talking about Utah Community Credit Union, and guess what? They just got news that they saved their members over $40 million in 2024 alone.
And UCCU is opening 4 new branches in the Salt Lake Valley, which means 6 total now. They have 21st South, Taylorsville, Sandy, Magna, Harriman, and Draper.
And to celebrate these new branches, UCCU is offering some amazing opportunities. First of all, $150 cash just for setting up direct deposit with your UCCU account.
They'll give you up to $250 cash just for transferring any existing loan from another institution to UCCU.
And here's the big one, giving away 10 amazing prizes, including, get this, a brand new 2025 Jeep Wrangler.
So you heard that right. A brand new Jeep Wrangler could be yours, and no purchase is necessary. You don't even have to be a member.
Anyone can enter. It's easy. All you've got to do is go to uccu.com and sign up. So enter to win today.
UCCU.com. Find out more about Utah Community Credit Union, where you're going to love where you bank.
I'm back to doing what I love and more, thanks to the Good Feet store.
Does your job require you to be on your feet all day? Teachers, postal carriers, salespeople, and restaurant staff. Many of us need our feet to get us through the day. Hi, this is Mike with the Good Feet store, and I'd like you to hear from Donna. She's a nurse and a real customer of the Good Feet store who wanted to share her story.
Oh, I have to tell you, I have struggled with pain in my feet. I was diagnosed with plantar fasciitis. With the 3-step program, it really fits to your lifestyle. I work in a hospital. I'm a registered nurse, so being on my feet, walking throughout the hospital during the day, I am free from any type of pain. And after working a 12-hour shift, I go home and my feet do not hurt.
Whether you're a nurse or anyone wanting to enjoy work without your feet getting in the way, come see us at the Good Feet store.
Thanks to the Good Feet store.
Schedule your free test walk at goodfeet.com.
I'm Maria Chaleos, and I'm here with Angela and Jeff. They are also clients of Salt Lake City Fat Loss. You guys look great.
Thanks. We're glad to be here.
Tell me how much weight you've lost and how long it took.
36 pounds in the 60-day reduction phase, and I've lost an additional 6 pounds on maintenance. So 42 pounds total so far.
And I've lost 59 so far.
Tell me what changed about your health with Salt Lake City Fat Loss.
I immediately started sleeping better. I also quit craving things late at night that I knew were sabotaging my diet.
I don't have to take a deep breath to tie my shoes anymore, and I can actually stand up after I've been kneeling on the floor without feeling like I was going to pass out.
What would you tell someone who is like you and is thinking about losing weight with Salt Lake City Fat Loss?
Don't wait another day. This plan will change your life.
Learn the secret of losing up to 1 pound of unhealthy fat per day and start your own success story at slcfatloss.com, slcfatloss.com.
Results may vary.
Be advised, this is your opportunity to save up to 40 to 80% on a hot tub or swim spa. This weekend only, Friday through Sunday, Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Be advised, this is your opportunity to save up to 40 to 80% on a hot tub or swim spa. This weekend only, Friday through Sunday, Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. 18-month interest-free financing. Our factories have demanded we sell 1,000 hot tubs and swim spas this weekend. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Huge factory incentives, factory rebates, this weekend only. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. We can remove your old hot tub. Free delivery of your new hot tub. Hot tub starting at $2,999. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Free delivery of your new hot tub. Just relax and enjoy. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Friday, 2 p.m. to 8 p.m. Saturday, 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. Sunday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Free admission, free parking, free delivery. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Call 833-SPA-SALE or visit hottubandSwimSpaSale.com.
If you're talking, they will hear you.
We all want our kids to grow up safe and healthy, so we show them how. And we tell them with honest conversations that let them know what we expect. Not just one time, but every chance we get. That's especially important when it comes to alcohol and other drugs. Kids not only need to know the dangers and how to avoid them, they need to hear it often from you. And when it comes to pain medications, opioids, they need to know that they should never be taken without a prescription and never shared with friends or family. It's dangerous and illegal. So talk with your kids and guide them through the challenges of growing up safe and healthy. Because when you talk, they hear you. For more information about talking with your kids about underage use of alcohol and other drugs, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
So talk, they hear you. You can do it if you try.
And expanded Inside Sources. Inside Sources.
You know, Holly, the predecessor to this Inside Sources was Inside Sources, and we were scheduled to expire, sunset, on Trump's 100th day in office.
Yeah.
It seems like that was not long ago. Then this show took over just shortly after that. We're now looking at 6 months that Trump has been in office since he started his second term. It's certainly been a busy second term, and it feels like every week there's something new, whether it's federal layoffs, ICE raids, natural disasters, his turbulent relationship with Ukraine, Vladimir Zelensky. Let's hear from News Nation.
The administration hoping to make this sort of a victory lap for them right now. But President Donald Trump is describing these first 6 months of his presidency, this new term, as one of the most consequential periods ever for a United States president. In fact, the president posted over the weekend to Truth Social to mark this occasion, writing, quote, "1 year ago, our country was dead with almost no hope of revival. Today, the USA is the hottest and most respected country anywhere in the world." As part of this 6-month mark, President Trump's team touted the passing of the One Big Beautiful Bill, which included $4.5 trillion in tax cuts and provides hundreds of billions of dollars for border operations and defense. To pay for this, though, the bill cuts over $1 trillion in spending.
So the administration's certainly touting their first 6 months.
Right.
We've gone from one of the worst countries to the best.
Well,
in
look,
just
I
six
just
short
have
months.
to read you some of the headlines, right? So just if you search for Trump's first 6 months. This is CNN. 6 months into Trump's second term, voters remain divided. News Nation. Trump marks 6 months in office, totally revived a major country. Newsweek. 6 months in, Trump has too many failures to count. Right? Trump. Fox story. Trump touts successes in first 6 months of second term. The Hill. Trump touts 6-month mark. U.S. is now hottest and most respected country anywhere. And the L.A. Times. After 6 months under Trump, California and L.A. are battlegrounds. Who benefits?
Yeah, and we're looking at the CNN poll. Americans falling less supportive of Trump's immigration policies than they were 6 months ago. So there have been some good, there's been some bad for the administration.
Yeah, and again, it depends on sometimes what side of the political aisle you sit on, and it's one of the things that's interesting with some of the stories. So the White House actually, they went ahead and put out a statement on the 20th, which was yesterday, so the 6-month mark. And this is the way they start it. Today, President Donald J. Trump celebrates the most successful first 6 months in office for any president in modern American history.
There you go. I would say, as I look back on the first 6 months, a lot of good, some bad. The most significant thing to me, and maybe you'll have a different take on this, is the One Big Beautiful Bill. To me, that was the most significant act since he's been president. Now there have been a lot. I mean, immigration has been turned on its head.
Yep.
And we don't have people crossing the border the way we did. We have this idea of 3,000 people deported per day. But every time we talk, and we've even talked about it today, the One Big Beautiful Bill has more and more and more things and more facets to it. You have to imagine that the mindset, the group that got Trump reelected, have had this One Big Beautiful Bill on their agenda for 4 years. It wasn't something they just wrote up. It seems like a lot of planning went into that.
Yeah, and one of the things that happens, right, especially when he decided he was going to run again, you start to plan what's going to happen day one, right? And I think Project 2025 is what really has been a blueprint for that. But one of the things that this bill does and has done is not only do you have tax cuts that were made permanent, but you also have a lot of increased spending. So you had an increase in the debt limit, and you had an increase in the spending. You had cuts to Medicaid to help pay for the tax cuts that became permanent. So, and as we mentioned today, there are things we're still finding out about the bill, and I think we'll continue to find out because A, they were writing it as they were voting on it, and B, it's almost 1,000 pages.
And it seems like in history, as I look back, when a president has both houses on his as a part of his same party, they don't get as much done as you might expect. I mean, that has been the case, at least in my experience. Trump has gotten everything he wanted. I mean, Congress
pretty much
rubber stamps. You look at the One Big Beautiful Bill, sure, there were some changes, there were some amendments, there were some tweaks, but largely it passed, and it passed. He gave him a July 4th deadline.
Yep.
I think he signed it on July 4th,
That's
or at least he got it from the Senate about that, the House. And then there was this rescission package last week, which it came completely out of the blue. It was a package that Congress had passed. They had set aside something like $9 billion for foreign aid and for public radio.
That's right.
Yes.
Public broadcasting.
Public broadcasting. And okay, let's claw that back.
Yep.
Boy, the Republicans line up, and it's along party lines. Both of those bills were almost exclusively along party lines. A couple Republicans shifted, but not enough to break the day.
Yeah, right. And, one of the things that we're seeing is some split on the immigration stuff. So, yes, the border is more secure, and yet we have these detention facilities like Alcatraz, like President Trump saying he wants to reopen the Alcatraz that's been a museum forever, right? Out in the San Francisco Bay, whatever the official name of the bay is. And so you're starting to see some change, right? So you have farmers who say, hey, we rely on that kind of labor. Can we have a carve out, right? And the president talking about maybe there's going to be some kind of carve out, but then you get Tom Homan who says there's absolutely no carve out. So there's some uncertainty there, but it's interesting. So of course, CNN, they did some polling, and they're not the only ones who've done polling, and we're starting to see a shift, right? But they wanted people to rank President Trump. And so one businesswoman that they talked to in Iowa, she gives President Trump a 9 out of 10, and a college professor in Pennsylvania gives him a 0 out of 10, right? And so there's a real split between parties, but there's also a split, I think, within the Republican Party. We're starting to see some of that.
Yeah, we definitely are. Immigration is just one thing, but to me, I look at a couple of areas that are problematic that I don't think have gone as well as maybe the Trump administration thought, and that is, we've talked about both of them today, foreign aid, and I know people think we shouldn't be taking care of every other country, but boy, when you talk about 500 tons of food that's just thrown away, and USAID doing away, we talked about, what is it, the soft
power
that the United States gains from having all of that. And the other thing is we've even talked about this today too, the cutbacks to research and whatnot that's going on our colleges and universities, which have been in the billions of dollars. I mean, the University of Utah alone suffers potentially $110 million in grant
cuts,
cutback.
right? Yeah, I mean, Harvard is looking at $2 billion in cuts.
Those are two things that I don't know that the American public had really signed up for.
Yeah.
I mean, immigration, yes, people wanted that.
Right.
Say what you want about it. People wanted immigration. They've got that. Largely, Trump has been successful in his mind in immigration and what's happened at the border. The crossings at the border are a fraction of what they were under the Biden administration. In fact, they've been so good that his $3,000 deportations a day has been almost impossible because he didn't have that many people coming into the country anymore, or people that are available to be rounded up. So immigration gone well. Other areas, I think, maybe not so much.
Cost of living is still high, right? And so eggs might be slightly cheaper than they were, but they're still pretty high. And certainly housing has been an issue that we've talked about. So there are Democrats who are supportive of the move to give Ukraine more weapons. We've talked about that, right? But we've also talked about quite a bit on this show, especially recently, but it's the Jeffrey Epstein stuff has really started to divide the base.
Yeah, and that's kind of gone back and forth. I mean, you talk about where it came from, what it's done to MAGA. Let's face it, MAGA has had a really mixed emotion about that, mixed feelings about it. And when we come back after the break, I do want to talk about that, where we are with the Wall Street Journal article about Trump sending allegedly a birthday card to Jeffrey Epstein for his 50th birthday. He's now filed a $10 billion lawsuit against their parent company. And just the whole Epstein debacle, it hasn't been good for the administration. It hasn't been good for the MAGA base because they're split on it.
They're so split.
Release the information, don't release the information, and it ebbs and flows. We'll talk about that when we come back.
It's 11:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Britt Johnson. KSL's top story this hour. Breaking news, former BYU quarterback Jake Retzlaff looks to be heading to New Orleans to finish out his college career. KSL News Radio's Randall Jepson has more.
ESPN was first to report that Jake Retzlaff has verbally committed to the Tulane Green Wave and will join the team as a walk-on. They also report that Tulane spent over a week vetting the civil lawsuit against Retzlaff, accusing him of sexual assault that has since been dismissed. Retzlaff was previously recruited by Tulane's current head coach, and Jake is familiar with several of the coaches on the staff. Retzlaff withdrew from BYU on July 11th. He was facing a reported 7-game suspension. Randall Jepson, KSL News Radio.
Our top national story this hour from ABC News. President Trump has threatened that he will delay plans for a new stadium in Washington that would be the home for the Washington Commanders unless the team changes its name back to the Washington Redskins. ABC's Rick Klein has more.
Now that it's been changed, a lot of people have frankly gotten used to it. The Commanders just came off of their best season in decades, reaching the NFC Championship game. The ownership group says that they're not intending to change this. And there really isn't an active issue that the president is talking about here. The deal to transfer ownership rights to the stadium site, the proposed stadium site, the old RFK Stadium, is already in place with or without the president's involvement. Of course, he can make things complicated if he wants to, but he seems to be raising this kind of out of nowhere.
The old name is considered offensive to the Native American population, and the team has had this name since 2022. Your money at this moment, the Dow up 252 points, the S&P gaining 38 points, and the NASDAQ up 159 points. Coming up, a chance of afternoon storms. KSL weather is next. KSL News Time, 11:31.
The sources where we get our news matters.
When you listen to Utah's Morning News, we want you to feel the stories are important to you and trustworthy. This is Amanda Dixon.
And I'm Andy Farnsworth. Join us weekday mornings on KSL News Radio.
Your electric bill is going to be higher for summer, but not if you get new windows from Advanced Window Products. State-of-the-art double-pane windows and insulated frames, any style, any color, from a company that's been building them right here in Salt Lake City for 39 years. Not only are you buying local, but you're cutting out the middleman because they're the factory. You save 30, even 40% 80% on your new windows, and you get a lifetime guarantee from a trusted local company. If there's a problem 5 years from now, they come right over and get things straight. And right now, you can save even more. If you call Advanced Windows for a quote, they'll give you an extra $2,500 off on 10 windows or more. Advanced Windows offers buy now, pay later. They have 60-month 0% financing. They always work out affordable payments, plus $2,500 off. So get your new windows for summer. Make the call now, 801-850-9100. That's 801-850-9100, or you can go to advancedwindows.com.
This Friday, join KSL News Radio and NPS from 10 to 1 as the movie show stops by. Then, browse and uncover what makes NPS so great. With 4 locations, NPS takes a new inventory every day. Then, they check all competitors' retail pricing before marking items down 20 to 70% off. You're invited to visit the movie show this Friday from 10 to 1. And that's the first step to discovering NPS. Visit npsstore.com to begin your own NPS adventure. npsstore.com.
I'm still going for it, even with higher stroke risk from atrial fibrillation, an irregular heartbeat not caused by a heart valve problem. Over a 3-year study, Eliquis apixaban tablets reduce stroke risk better than warfarin, and over 97% of Eliquis patients did not experience a stroke. A first stroke occurred in 2.9% of warfarin patients versus 2.3% of Eliquis patients.
Don't stop prescription Eliquis without asking your doctor. Stroke risk may increase. Eliquis can cause serious and potentially fatal bleeding. Don't take if you have an artificial heart valve, abnormal bleeding, or antiphospholipid syndrome. While taking, you may bruise more easily or bleed longer. A spinal injection increases blood clot risk, which may cause paralysis. Get medical help right away for unexpected bleeding or bruising, or back pain, tingling, numbness, muscle weakness, or incontinence. Aspirin products, NSAIDs, SSRIs, SNRIs, and blood thinners increase bleeding risk. Tell your doctor about planned medical or dental procedures. Learn more at Eliquis.com or call 1-855-ELIQUIS.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Mountain America's Double Rewards credit card promotion. Here's Ricky Meese.
Good speeds on all the valley freeways. Not going to see a problem there. In Summit County, we do have an accident. This is on Highway 40 at the ramp by Quinn's Junction at the SR 248 junction in Summit County, but it's over to the shoulder. Common Spirit Hospitals, clinics, and caregivers, all connected to advanced healthcare in Colorado, Kansas, and Utah. Healthcare with human kindness is here. Hello, human kindness. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
Partly cloudy today, a chance of isolated thunderstorms in the afternoon, highs in the mid-90s. Right now, we've already reached 90 degrees, and it's partly cloudy with some wind. I'm Britt Johnson from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
On July 17th this year, the Wall Street Journal published an article about a birthday card, or at least some additions to a birthday card allegedly sent to Jeffrey Epstein by Donald Trump. That was July 17th. On July 18th, one day later, Trump filed a $10 billion lawsuit against the Wall Street Journal, its owner Rupert Murdoch, its CEO Robert Thompson, and the 2 authors of the article, alleging defamation. In other words, he was lied about in connection with this article. And he talks about the what led up to this printing, and the fact that the Wall Street Journal gave him they sent him what they called an intent to publish. They said, hey, we're publishing this article in a couple days. Do you want to talk about it? He claims that he sent them some stuff saying, look, if you do, I'm going to sue you. You should cease and desist. What you're saying is false and defamatory. No response. They just went ahead and filed it. So he's now filed a $10 billion lawsuit in Florida.
Right. So the Wall Street Journal is a credible journal. It leans right. It's considered to be a conservative news outlet. And I think their response is pretty telling, actually, because they said that they stand behind their work, right? And they just said, basically, bring it on. A Dow Jones spokeswoman, and that's the parent company, said, we have full confidence in the rigor and accuracy of our reporting, and we will vigorously defend against any lawsuit.
Well, that's, of course, what you always say when you're brought with a lawsuit. But you
I
have
don't
to
know if that's true.
Yeah, that's true. You have to know this. They knew or should have known that printing this was going to generate some
Of course they knew.
backlash, and that he was going to file a lawsuit against them. And a lot of our news outlets, as we've seen from, and I won't mention any by name, have gone to the point where, hey, wait a minute, let's err on the side of not being sued, even though we believe something may be true, because it's not worth the cost and expense of defending a lawsuit, especially when your company may be in the crosshairs of a merger or of some FCC issues or something like that, where the administration can, and apparently has, exerted some other pressure outside of the legal.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the issues, right? So President Trump has sued other news outlets who have chosen to settle instead of continuing to fight. I don't think the Wall Street Journal will settle in this because I don't think that I mean, I think you're correct. I think they would have known for sure that President Trump was going to sue them. And so every I was dotted and every T was crossed before they went forward with this. And so what happens is, my understanding with the process of discovery, if they move forward with this lawsuit, is that everything that they have will be laid out, basically.
Right. And what's that movie, Absence of Malice? I mean, remember that one? It was a great
I've
movie.
never seen it.
Oh, you
I'm
gotta watch
sorry.
it. It's a great movie. But anyway, the whole idea behind it is, and I guess what Wall Street Journal might be saying is, look, what we reported is what we believe to be true.
Right.
Where there wasn't any malicious intent.
Yeah.
Because defamation requires, let's face it, an intent to defame, an intent to defraud or make light of somebody. Whereas a media outlet, and this is what always saves some of those, those, I don't know, the
true crime stories?
Yes, some of those periodicals that don't necessarily have a lot of credibility, they can say, well, we quoted a source. The source told us this. National Enquirer, that type of thing.
Well, that's a different level, right?
Yeah, but I mean, that's always their defense when they get sued.
Yeah. I have a question for you, though. Defamation, my understanding is legally, as a public figure, there's a different standard than if it was just me as a private citizen.
Absolutely. And the law has stated that for, I think it was New York Times versus Sullivan. It was a long, long time ago when they said, if you're in the public light, you are in the crosshairs more than the person in the community, the regular person. And so it doesn't mean defamation is allowed in any respect, but it means that you need to be aware that there's going to be information about you that may or may not be true, and that's just part of being in the public light.
Right, but what's the higher bar for a public official like the President of the United States?
Yeah, that's exactly what the lawsuit says. That the intent on the part of the publisher has to be more than just a mistake. That they have to be
malicious.
There has to be a higher level of malice to support a lawsuit.
Well, one of the things that's interesting to me, of course, is that this is continuing to spread. There continues to be conversation about the Epstein files, and we've said before, this is one of the issues that's kind of a President Trump's own making, because during his campaign, he really campaigned on, we need to release these files. There's no question. Let me just read you. This is something from J.D. Vance in 2021, and this is specifically about the Epstein files. If you're a journalist and you're not asking questions about this case, you should be ashamed of yourself. What purpose do you even serve? I'm sure there's a middle-class teenager somewhere who could use some harassing right now, but maybe do your job once in a while. And then on Thursday, he said, well, that story is just complete and utter bullcrap, and the Wall Street Journal should be ashamed for publishing it. There's no letter. No letter exists, but Trump says the letter exists. It's just fake.
Right, yes. And he said right out of the chute, I remember when the article was published on the 17th, hearing him saying they're going to get sued, we're coming after them.
Yeah.
I mean, this lawsuit wasn't drafted overnight. I mean, this looks like something they had in the works for some time after they heard that the article was going to be published. But I mean, in any defamation suit, of course, people will say truth is a defense. And so the problem you have when you file a defamation suit is that in order to establish the truth as a defense, the defendants, the Wall Street Journal, is entitled to question Trump, entitled to put him on the witness stand, entitled to
I want to
take
see that.
his deposition, ask him questions under oath. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And say, well, you brought the lawsuit. We've got to prove that it's true. So let's ask you some questions. Let's put you to the burden.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know that this was a hill Trump wanted to die on, but he's going to. And ironically, I've heard that this particular lawsuit has shifted a little bit of the tension away from the MAGA people that were upset at Trump, and now
Yeah.
it's sort of going, well, wait a minute.
Now they're mad at the Wall Street Journal.
Right. And wasn't it that both houses of Congress recently supported Bondi's decision not to release the files? You know what I mean? That I thought there was the Utah delegation supported her doing that.
So I think that's maybe an overstatement. So there were some votes potentially to demand that it be released immediately, and they voted those down. But you have somebody even like Speaker Mike Johnson who says we need transparency. You have Utah Senator John Curtis who told us on our show he believes in transparency, and you can't say, hey, I have the files on my desk, and then say, wait, never mind, there's no files, right? So yes, there was a motion to actually force their hand to release the files immediately, and they did vote that down. But there are plenty of Republicans who are saying we actually want to see these files. But what Speaker Mike Johnson is saying is we want to go through a process where we have closed hearings where we can actually examine the files ourselves rather than just dump them on the public's sphere.
Well, Trump's attorneys have invited a little bit more than a closed hearing by
Yes.
filing a lawsuit
Yes,
against the Wall Street Journal, which is, like you said, probably one of the more conservative publications.
Considered, yeah.
Absolutely more right than left-leaning. For the most part, people would assume it that way.
Yeah.
And they have to defend themselves, and they have to be able to ask as many questions as they think are relevant and important to the lawsuit, and to prove that what they did was with good faith and that there may be some truth behind it.
Yeah, and there are some things that are easy to disprove right off the bat. So when President Trump says, I never draw sketches, well, there's multiple sketches available online, and multiple people who said, look, he was the first to sign up for this fundraiser that I was doing, sent me a sketch that he signed. So we know that there's some of that. Really quick question in maybe 15 seconds. Why is this filed in Florida?
As I read it, so they go through this idea of why it's filed in Florida, and there's like 4 or 5 paragraphs on that. I would say the reason it's filed in Florida is because they can. I mean, it's really just one of those, Florida has jurisdiction. I mean, the Wall Street Journal is published in every state, and it's read in every state.
Maybe that's where Trump lives?
And I think that
when he's not at the White House.
Yeah, just from reading between the lines, they have a whole bunch of sections here or paragraphs here on jurisdiction and venue. As I read it, it's probably because they're doing a little bit of forum shopping and maybe feel like the federal court in Florida may be a little more friendly to them. But this is a case that probably could have been brought in any federal court in the country, because the Wall Street Journal is published in every federal jurisdiction in the country. When we come back after the break, I ran a marathon. In fact, the anniversary of it is coming up soon because I ran it on the 24th of July, Deseret News Marathon. Holly's handed out water at one.
Woohoo!
There you go. So we're going to talk about marathons in a kind of a weird way that you may not expect, and in terms of Holly's fun facts of the day when we come back.
It all started with a commitment to comfort. Gillette Heating and Air is proud to be Utah County's go-to team for expert HVAC and plumbing solutions. Need a repair, upgrade, or seasonal tune-up? Don't let cost hold you back. With 0% financing available, it's easy to get the work done now and pay later. Plus, save $100 on any repair over $500 and keep your system running strong with a professional tune-up before the heat hits. Visit GilletteHVAC.com or call 385-GET-COOL to book today. Homegrown service pros, financing made simple, comfort made easy.
Carrier, turn to the experts. A Carrier factory authorized dealer.
At Trio Senior Living, older adults aren't slowing down. They're just getting started. The Prime Fit Wellness Program expands wellness beyond the gym into every aspect of community life. Whatever your goals, the team at Trio Senior Living has got your back, so you can put your best foot forward. Call 801-475-4004 today to schedule your personal visit.
Hear that? That's what having fewer hot flashes and night sweats can sound like. Veoza is the #1 prescribed hormone-free treatment FDA approved for moderate to severe vasomotor symptoms, also known as hot flashes and night sweats, due to menopause. Veoza can cause serious side effects, including liver problems. Your doctor will do blood tests before and during treatment. Stop Veoza and call your doctor if you have symptoms of liver problems, such as feeling more tired than usual, decreased appetite, nausea, vomiting, itching, yellowing of the eyes or skin, pale stool, dark urine, or stomach pain. Don't use Veoza if you have cirrhosis, severe kidney problems, kidney failure, or take CYP1A2 inhibitors. Ask your doctor about Veoza. To learn more, call 1-866-239-1637 or go to Veoza.com. That's VEOZAH.com.
This is Derek Miller speaking on business. Since 2006, Colorado Party Rentals has delivered exceptional event products and services across the Rocky Mountain region. With its 2023 Salt Lake City launch as Summit Party Rentals, the company continues to grow. Business Development Manager Liz Mullen joins us with more.
Summit Party Rentals Utah is your trusted source for premium event and party rentals across Utah and the Mountain West. Whether you're planning a backyard birthday, corporate gathering, or dream wedding, we offer high-quality items and exceptional service to make your celebration unforgettable. From tents, tables, and chairs to upscale lounge furniture, tabletop, and fine linens, our diverse inventory has everything you need to bring your vision to life. Summit Party Rentals Utah is the 4th location established under the umbrella of Colorado Party Rentals, joining our sister locations in Denver, Colorado Springs, and Santa Fe, New Mexico. We pride ourselves on reliability, cleanliness, and customer satisfaction. Our experienced team ensures on-time delivery, professional setup, and stress-free coordination so you can focus on enjoying your event. At Summit Party Rentals, we believe every occasion, big or small, deserves professional care and a touch of fun. Let us help you elevate your next event and create lasting memories.
Summit Party Rentals offers top-tier service and stylish event rentals in Utah. Their friendly, experienced team is ready to make your event unforgettable. Learn more at the letter C, partyrentals.com. I'm Derek Miller with the Salt Lake Chamber, speaking on business.
Any Hour Services can make sure your AC keeps you cool this summer. Whether you need a tune-up, repair, or just a second opinion about replacing it, call Any Hour Services or visit anyhourservices.com.
Hi, it's Tori DeVito. In every family, small conversations can make a big impact. I grew up on tour with my parents. Kind of different, but we bonded over music just like other families do over sports, camping, or other interests. And we talked. Little everyday conversations from silly to serious that built a foundation over time. Honest conversations, like when my dad shared his experiences as an alcoholic.
Your honesty about that part of your life gave me a sense of integrity that I wanted to uphold in my own life. And I was so grateful that you and Mom had become these sober, stable people who were always there for me.
I wanted you to know from someone who's been in recovery more than 30 years now that hard work is what creates success, not alcohol or other drugs, whether it's music or anything else. I said it a lot, and I'm glad you took it to heart.
Talk, they hear you. For more information about talking with your kids about underage use of alcohol and other drugs, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
Inside Sources.
Okay, Holly, do you know what the longest operating marathon in Utah is?
Well,
kind of
probably the Days of 47.
Deseret News Marathon. Yep.
Okay.
The one that's held on the 24th of July every year. This year will be its 55th running. It's not the longest marathon in the country, but it's the longest one that's continually run here in the state of Utah. It runs and it finishes down on the parade route. You run through the parade route. I ran it once. I had to do a marathon.
Crazy.
It's one of those things, you know, your bucket list things.
Yeah, right. It's not on my bucket list.
I have to run for political office. I have to run a marathon. I used to run a lot. I used to enjoy it. But a marathon, I would say, was a miserable day, and I told myself I would never do it again. I tend to pronate. I kind of run on my toes a little bit.
That sounds so painful.
And the race is mostly downhill.
Yeah.
So when you're on your toes downhill for 26.2 miles, you feel it for days to come. I will never run another marathon. I ran several halves. I ran Deseret News 10K. They used to have a 10K with the marathon. I don't know if they still do.
I know they have a kids 1K.
Oh, they have a full, they have a half, they have a 10K, a 5K, a 1K, and a relay. Okay, they've got everything this year.
Everything. So I'm volunteering again this year. So I've only volunteered once before, and that was for the Days of 47 Deseret News Marathon, and I'll volunteer again. I'll be at like the Hogle Zoo aid station, water station, whatever. They give people goop, right? You can squirt in your mouth.
That's a good one because you're about halfway done.
Yeah.
By the time you get to the Hogle Zoo, when we started, we started up at the reservoir up there and ran up East Canyon because you got to get 26 miles and then down East Canyon. There was a little uphill, then down past the zoo, down into the avenues area, and then up the parade course. It was
just
fun.
A little bit of trivia. We have a couple of people in the political sphere in Utah who are avid marathon runners. One of them is Senator Mike McKell, and he runs with Stan Lockhart, who is a lobbyist in our state, used to be married to Speaker Becky Lockhart before she passed away. And they run marathons all over the world. I think they're a little crazy, but they do it.
Yeah. Well, I sort of shifted to cycling and do the cycling equivalent of a marathon.
I can cheer you on.
Yeah.
Yay, keep going. Yay.
So it's interesting. Speaking of marathons, the Utah State Prison is sponsoring a marathon or hosting a marathon or putting on a marathon, I should say, a half marathon, I should say, for inmates only. They've been training for it. The inmates have been training since November. Of course, the name of the marathon is 26.2 to Life, which
it was a documentary.
Right.
It looks like that chronicles the efforts of 3 men to run a marathon within prison, right after being sentenced to life in prison. So it's interesting, actually.
Yeah, and so I mean, they're not letting him out to run
right.
13.1 miles. You've got to run. That's a lot of runs around the block.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sorry. It's based on a documentary, 26.2 to Life. It'll be interesting. I think it's a lot of fun. It's a good thing for the inmates. And
they have a run every month, but they're planning a full marathon in November.
Yeah. And I think I would just say this, having run all over the country and even in other countries, running is such a beautiful thing to do. And you can just do it. You don't need to bring your bicycle or your rowboat or anything like that. You just put your shoes on, get out of your hotel, and go run. I used to love doing that when I could run.
There's another news story, too, that caught my eye, and I don't know enough about marathoning, really, except to say that I know that the Boston Marathon, you have to qualify in a certain way. But what I didn't know is that there has to be a certain amount of rise and drop, I guess, with the hills.
Right.
And in Utah Valley, they actually changed their course so that they could qualify as a qualifier for the Boston Marathon.
Yeah, the St. George Marathon used to be the one to go to. Everyone ran St. George because it was mostly downhill.
Sounds hot.
You had to qualify for Boston, so you'd have to get a certain time. Boston sort of got onto it and said, well, you've got to have so much elevation gain or drop or we're going to give you a penalty. So Utah Valley Marathon. And the reason why you want to be a Boston qualifier?
Because it's a good race.
You get a lot more people showing up.
Yeah.
Because people want to qualify for Boston.
Right, and those are, it's not me. It's not couch to 5K people. It's like these are serious people who know what they're doing.
and some marathons, including Boston, actually require you to qualify. So you have to have done a marathon that's a qualifier. You have to have completed it within a certain time. And if you do, you can go to the granddaddy of them all, which is Boston. I know friends that have trained for Boston, have done what they can to get that. My marathon time certainly didn't qualify me for Boston. And I wouldn't have done it if it had, because it was just such a miserable experience. But I'm not saying it was bad. It was a lot of fun. And the people, when you go down State Street and people are cheering you, it's the coolest
That's gotta
thing
be fun.
It was beautiful.
Yeah. So this is what I learned, right? Races with more than 1,500 feet of downhill elevation, you actually get a penalty for the Boston Marathon of 5 minutes. And if they go down more than 3,000 feet, it gives racers a 10-minute penalty. So what the Utah Valley Marathon did is to change their course. They were going 1,614 feet down in elevation, making it just over the threshold to go into the time penalty. And so they rerouted it so that it's 1,400 and something feet of
there
downhill.
You go. So no penalty.
So no penalty.
It's still mostly downhill. Let's face it, 1,400 feet is significant.
That's a good
downhill.
drop.
Yeah,
right?
And that's a good thing because they'll get a lot of. Why are we talking about marathons?
Well, because Thursday is Pioneer Day, and so there's a big marathon coming up. That's why.
All right. What else is coming
Fun
up?
facts of the day.
Yes.
So today is National Junk Food Day. It cracks me up. So yesterday was National Ice Cream Day. I like that holiday. Today is National Junk Food Day. And, one of the things that's interesting is there are people who are pushing back on the MAHA movement. So this is RFK Jr., right? Make America Healthy Again, because he is doing things promoting fast food, right? So he's like, well, yay, Steak Shack, whatever it is going to sugar-based soda, and they're frying their fries in tallow, right? And so, I've seen people online who are like personal trainers, are like, look, the number one rule I tell people if they come to work with me is stop drinking soda and don't eat fast food.
There you go. Are donuts junk food?
Yes,
okay,
donuts are junk food.
And I fulfilled my requirement for the day, because I will say that I confess I had a donut this morning.
Okay, so I have some other things. We talked earlier in the show about space, and we talked about a spaceport in Utah, but I have a couple of space-related trivia facts. So on this day in 1998, Alan Shepard, who is an American astronaut and the first American in space, actually died of leukemia at age 74. In 2011, NASA's final space shuttle mission came to an end on July 21st in 2011. So those are a couple of our spacey ones.
Alan Shepard, I remember that. And it doesn't seem like it was that long ago that we were doing space shuttles, but 2011 was the last one that landed.
Can you believe that?
Yeah,
it's already been a while.
Yeah,
14 years. Yeah. On this date also, so John T. Scopes, do you remember who he is?
The Scopes monkey
The Scopes trial.
Yes.
Yeah. So what is that?
I don't remember.
Okay, it's evolution.
Oh, evolution.
That's
yes.
right.
That was an interesting trial. Yeah.
Evolution versus creationism. So he was found guilty on this day in 1925, so 100 years ago today.
Right.
He was found guilty. He was fined $100 and costs for the trial.
Espousing
evolution. Yeah,
over
teaching evolution.
Right.
Yep, that's
over
right.
Creation.
Yep,
right.
that's right. And then 1951, one of my favorite comedians is Shane. We lost him, but Robin Williams was born on this day in 1951.
Yeah, what a loss that was.
Yeah.
One of the most brilliant comedians of my lifetime.
Yep. Another political piece of trivia. Remember Richard Nixon?
Yes. How could we not?
In 1974 is when the House filed 2 articles of impeachment against him. And then you remember he resigned before the Senate convicted him.
Before he would want to go through that mess.
Yeah.
So this wasn't the day he resigned. This was the day that this
that
Senate
they filed. No, not the Senate, the House.
The
so,
House,
yeah,
of course.
So the House filed the articles
The
of
only party that
impeachment.
can.
Yeah, and then he, basically he was going to head over to the Senate, and he had people say to him, "You're not going to survive a vote in the Senate." So he chose to resign rather than be impeached.
There you go.
But he would have been.
So I got to back up on the marathon thing. I know you
Yeah.
probably have more facts than
No,
me, but
it's
why did you sign up for that? I mean, you sign up for everything. Every time I do a show with you, you're like, well, this weekend I'm doing this parade, or I'm going to this event.
I do like to volunteer. And look, the Deseret News actually is a halftime
Of
employer
course.
of mine.
There you go.
They're looking for volunteers too. I'm like, yeah, sure, I'll show up. So I'll be up there at the zoo before 6 a.m. in the morning.
I have my wife made me throw away half of my T-shirts.
Yeah.
But I was able to keep a few. Deseret News Marathon. It was one of the T-shirts I kept. In fact, I think I'll wear it on Wednesday.
It's worth it.
So that you can see that I'm telling the truth that I did.
All right.
All right. There are a lack of immigration judges in the U.S. Maria Shileos has a scoop on that next. Stay with us on KSL News Radio.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt